Hello and good afternoon, Gamer Nation. Welcome to this Saturday's special event known as the Double Barrel Gaming Presents Game of the Year 2020. I am your host, MrBooMStickXL. And folks, we have an action-packed 2 hours for you. We're going to be talking about some of our history as friends to open up the show so you get to know us for all the new viewers that we might have today. We're also going to be talking about some of the biggest surprises, biggest disappointments of 2020. Of course, we're going to give you our top 10 and our game of the year individually. And then one of our panel members, who is the numbers guy, is going to break it down, and we're going to give you the panel's ultimate game of the year 2020. We're also going to be talking about some of the indie titles that surprised us, and more importantly, towards the end of the show, we're going to be talking about what we are looking forward to in 2021 with the three major developers / publishers in Nintendo, Xbox, and of course PlayStation. And quite frankly, because of all of the delays in 2020, 2021 could potentially be a really packed year for gaming, especially if you are like us who support all three consoles. But let's get into the introductions first, and then we will break down what you guys and gals came out to hear today. First up, you know him as someone that I talk about almost on an every show basis. He is technically my brother from another mother. Right? I feel like that's son.
That'd be weird.
That would be kind of weird. Neo Mental, welcome to the program, dude. I know your ears are always ringing. Yes, you are my brother from another mother. We have a tremendous, long family-like history, and it's great to have you a part of today's show.
Well, thank you, good sir. I'm happy to be here. I'm excited. I'm sad that we won't be getting together later on like we normally do.
Yeah,
but,
wow.
That's the year that we've been in. So thankfully, we're all here. We're healthy, and we'll have some fun. And then next year, we'll be able to hang out. So.
Yeah, I mean, look, if again, we're going to get into why we're doing it this way. It's COVID has really thrown a monkey wrench into not just this particular podcast; it's the world, folks. And we normally do these shows and get together personally. It's one of the things I look forward to the most. We don't get a chance to hang out. We are friends that grew up in the early 90s working for Funkoland, and it's something that brings us together each and every year, which is, of course, is this game of the year. Usually it's a dinner. We go to dinner. Our favorite restaurant is Fridays, but we, of course, mix that up. And then we go to someone's house or crib, and we kind of just hang out for the remainder of the evening, just kind of catching up on life and talking about video games. It's very nerdy for sure, but it's something that we have been doing. This is now the 9th annual Game of the Year awards show and I think this is our third one that we're doing live on the air. And again, we just wanted to kind of bring something fun to the Double Barrel Gaming's channel and kind of involve the community in the conversation. But next up, we're going to talk about someone who was a revered and stickler manager for us during the Funkoland days, who nearly got executed for not making a return to, let's say, a Yonkers police officer. Please welcome Jay the Retro Gamer.
You never let me forget that, do you?
No, we will not.
Okay. Well, thank you for having me. Look, I'll admit I struggled a little bit to get excited to do a video game show with the world seemingly turning upside down this last year. But if it's taught us anything, that it just reminds us to be appreciative and grateful for the blessings in our life, which the friendship with the three of you absolutely is a part of that. And plus, I respect tradition that we've been doing it this long. So the distraction is what we need right now. So I'm just ready to kick back and have some fun.
Yeah, and you know what? It's great that you think like that, because obviously you just never know what's going to happen. And obviously we're not doing the show just living for today. But you're right. We do have to, do things that pull us away from the horrific world that we're currently living in. And it's this is a good way to spend 2 hours with not just us, but with the community at large, to kind of just, hang out, talk about video games, and have some fun. And last, and in no way least, he is someone that has been A friend of mine that we have done some of the most epic trades in the history of trades growing up. They really were a slobber knocker of trades, if you will. Please welcome to the show, Jay the Destroyer.
Hello, everyone. And I just would like to say that BoomStick, that I've always considered you like a father from another mother, from another brother, from a cousin.
Love it.
Yo.
Listen, dude, it's great to have you a part of the show. And obviously, this is something that we look forward to. I actually think it might have been even you a couple of years ago. You're like, why don't we try and do this live on the air? And here we are, third year in a row doing this. And like I said, again, we're not expecting 1,000 people to show up, though that would be nice. But we are going to be talking about our game of the year and a bunch of other things to kind of keep everybody entertained. But just to give you a little heads up, we all met in the early 90s during the FuncoLand era. Now, that's a name that a lot of people are going to be like scratching their brains. Like they don't even know what we're talking about.
These guys are old.
Yeah, well, we are actually all old. Me being the oldest of the bunch at 50 years young, I should say. But FuncoLand was what GameStop is now. It was something that really was a first of its kind, and we all worked in the Yonkers Central Avenue store back in the early 90s, and obviously it was let's just say some really fun times, it's what brought us together. And video games is what keeps us together, and the friendships that we have made over the long years. It's just been something that's been memorable to me. It's memorable to everybody on this panel. But it's, again, you guys are not here to for a history lesson. We're going to get into the gaming part of it, and we're going to start with our biggest surprises and disappointments. And we're going to start with Jay the Retro Gamer. Now, Retro, for you, and the way we're going to break it down is we're going to go into your biggest surprises first, get everyone's answers, and then come back around to everyone's disappointment. So for you, 2020 has been a year that's going to be revered for many reasons. But there are a lot of great games that released during a pandemic, and there's certain situations that may not even be so much particularly based on a game, but on a happening. For you, what was one of the biggest surprises of 2020?
This game is going to get echoed in a number of probably different categories, but for me, the biggest surprise of the year was this little game called Hades.
Okay.
I'm in no way, shape, or form a fan of roguelike games, but that game, just kind of came out of nowhere for me, and I can't be surprised with that it's from Supergiant Games, who has a great pedigree of titles. So that was my personal surprise of the year.
No, and you know what? Listen, the IGN just gave that game, gave that particular title Game of the Year for them, and that's a big deal. It was obviously a part of the Game Awards 2020, and a small title that could. I have it. It's unfortunately a victim to the heinous backlog that we all have. I bought it the day it came out. I heard amazing things, and I'm not a big roguelike dude either, but that is a game I honestly cannot wait to sink my teeth into, and that good on you for that. So let's go to Neo Mental next. Neo, for you, there were a lot of games. Like you gave games like Destiny and The Division, two of your favorite franchises, a bit of a break so you can actually play games. A Gaming Forte, a very good friend of mine and panel member on Primetime Gaming, said that it was his biggest sin in gaming, dedicating so much time to those two. Well, that Destiny, for instance, for him, and for you, it was both. And when you do that, is as much as you become a part of the lore, you miss out on a lot of games. For you, what was 2020's biggest surprise?
Well, it's weird because, like you said, that has been the biggest problem. And I actually focused this year on not getting as much into it. Like, it's sad because I didn't play Destiny. Is not even on my top 10 list because I didn't even play New Light. I actually tried playing different things, and it's weird because I got like months where I was stuck in different games, which was a great thing. But surprisingly enough, the biggest surprise for me was Apple Arcade. When I got my iPhone when it came out a couple months ago, I got 3 months for free, and I actually started checking it out. And there is like a ton of good games in there. Like it was really surprising, and it's actually one of the games in there that hit my top 10 this year. So that really, like, there's so many good games in there. So many good games. I downloaded like 10 of them. I didn't even get a chance to play them all. So that like knocked me out. I was really surprised that they had that many good games in there.
Well, that's pretty interesting. I don't have Apple Arcade. I'm really not a big Apple kind of a dude. Obviously, if what you're talking about is something that is worthy of me taking a dip, putting my toe into the water and checking out, I actually might do that because they do have exclusives. And again, smaller exclusives. I don't know, what the future holds for Apple. Obviously, when you talk about the when you look at what happened with all of these services like Hulu and Netflix and all of these different services that offer movies and shows, you could imagine that video games are the next evolution of that war that's coming. Now, it seems as if the one that is the head of the game is Microsoft with the Xbox Game Pass. And, they've said publicly that they don't even look at Nintendo and Sony as competitors. They look at Apple. They look at Amazon, right? They look at those other big giant companies. And I think that we're going to be getting some big bombs from all of them. I mean, I know you can. I didn't even mention Stadia. Stadia, even though I don't find it to be as relevant as it should be, considering it's been out as long, as it has. But that's pretty interesting that your biggest surprise comes from a streaming giant like Apple. That's pretty interesting. Let's get Jay the Retro Gamers. I said not Jay the Retro Gamer, Jay the Destroyer. What for you was the biggest surprise of 2020 when talking about gaming?
Well, when it comes to the biggest surprise, the way Gaming Forte was saying about a gaming sin. So my gaming sin is my biggest surprise, and it is the time that I put into Cyberpunk. And I put in a lot of time into Cyberpunk, and why I'm so surprised is because it is not a good game at all.
Okay.
All right.
And I know Neo Mental's a huge fan, and obviously it did something right because I played a metric ton of it, and I kept on playing it. And I don't know why I kept on playing it, because I could have given my time to many other better games. But it obviously did something right. So that's my biggest surprise, because how I could play a game so much that I personally think is not good.
That's, what, dude? That is actually pretty interesting. Like, I don't think I've ever heard that breakdown of, someone's surprise being, I really played the hell out of this game, but did not like it, and found it to be
doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it does make sense. It does make sense because leading up to the release of, listen, I still don't have the game. I had my collector's edition, stolen or, whatever, never got it. So I got a refund. And then when, all of the negativity surrounding that game came out, I decided to kind of just hold off. So, I was worried about not getting the collector's edition. Now I'm not worried about it at all because it's dropping in price. And it is a game that once they patch officially, and I know that they've done several patches, I'll jump into the game, and I'm hoping that I don't have your experience.
Let me add one more thing in.
Sure.
And what I'll say is this is also could be a big surprise too, because it really was a surprise to a lot of people. The version that I played, and funny that you mentioned it, I actually played the entire game through on the Stadia version.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And it is known that the Stadia version is one of the most stable and pretty much problem-free platforms. And out of all the hours that I played it, I had no crashes. I had bugs, definitely, but I had 0 crashes, and generally the game ran like butter most of the time. So all my issues, any issue that I have with this game, honestly has zero to do with bugs. Zero. It's all gameplay.
That's pretty interesting. And again, it's one of those things. Who would have thunk it that you enjoyed it as much as you did? Well, you played it as long as you did on Stadia, which of course is the one, like you said, had the least crashes, and that's pretty surprising in itself. I'm going to say this. I'm going to say obviously talk about my biggest surprise. My biggest surprise is I originally thought about it as just being as the consoles. We got folks. You got to remember this now. Okay, now we as gamers are very spoiled people. There's no doubt about it. We don't wait for anyone, and we feel like because we're consumers and we consume so much of it that we deserve it when we want it, right? So one of the most amazing things for me, and the biggest surprises, folks, is that these consoles did not get delayed. I think that it is pretty amazing. Yes, sure. Did Sony not make enough of them? Absolutely. Did both? I want to say both of them, because obviously there are tons of people that don't have either of these consoles, and they're still looking for them. So it is, to me, as someone who runs a podcast, but at his core is just a gamer like everybody else, the fact that we got not one, not two, but three different consoles in the Series X, the Series S, and of course both PlayStation, both the physical and the digital versions, we got new consoles during a pandemic. Like, that is crazy. And what's even more impressive is Microsoft waiting as long as they did for the proper and full RDNA 2 chipset. And obviously they started producing these a lot later than the PlayStation 5, and they still were able to ship more. So again, it's one of those instances that makes you really smile. If you, like, I was very fortunate. I have both consoles. I think everybody here on the panel has both consoles, and that is in itself pretty epic during a pandemic for sure. But one other little bonus one I want to throw, and the biggest surprise for me, because that was like a mini surprise, because again, it's a surprise, but for me, the biggest surprise is how absolutely amazing I think that the DualSense 5 is. I just think that Sony has outdone themselves in innovation. I know I'm going to get some boos in the chat for that. Folks, I take nothing away from the perfect controller known as the Xbox Series X controller, or even the Elite 2.0. But what Sony has done is innovated by using what we love about the Xbox controller and somehow making it slightly better with the haptic triggers and the touchpad and everything, of even the rumble in the DualSense is impressive. So for me, on top of we got consoles, I am really, really happily impressed and tremendously surprised on how really good the DualSense 5 controller actually is. But I do want to bring this back around to our
Boom, let me ask you a quick question.
Sure.
I know you said that about the controller, and I totally agree with you. At the same time, as well thought out as the controller is, ultimately, I love my PS5. I can't tell you how much I love this system, but I'm at a point, and I know they'll work through these problems, but these are the kind of problems where I feel like they rushed. I'm afraid to turn it on half the time. I'm afraid to turn it on.
Yeah.
I'm gonna brick or do that. I had a crash about 2 weeks ago, and honestly, I have barely turned it on since, because I'm waiting for another update to come, which hasn't come yet. Like, I'm literally crazy in the head that this system is gonna die when I turn it on. Now that should have been worked out better, and the whole thing with the hard drives, the externals, that's ridiculous. That's unacceptable.
Yeah, no, listen, you're 100% honest when you say that. I have had one major crash where I'm not going to front here. I was playing Miles Morales. Out of nowhere, the system decided to shut down. I couldn't get it to start either by the controller or by the power button. And I had to wait about 10 minutes. When it finally was able to be powered back up, I got some sort of corruption. We have to rebuild your console kind of a message. I was able to play an hour later. I have not had a problem. Like you, because I usually play one game at a time, so I've been knee deep in Immortals. So I started playing Miles Morales because I really want to finish the DLC. Game is gorgeous and it's a great story. And when I turned on my console I think it was the middle of the week, I got another corruption error regarding my saves, and I'm like, oh, here we go. I lost all my saves, and it turns out that thank goodness I had it, because I have PlayStation Plus, I had it in the cloud. So it had to pull it from there in order for me to load my game. So yeah, you're right. There is a bit of stress when playing turning on your PlayStation 5, and that's a shame that we spent $500 and we have to worry about our system bricking from playing a game. So yeah, that's definitely a concern for sure.
Bro, let me tell you, 15 minutes in playing Miles Morales, the system had like no games played on it. When I first started playing Miles Morales, 15 minutes in and fighting Rhino, system just shut off. 15 minutes in.
Yeah, that's bad.
Yeah. I had a similar experience with that.
I was like,
but
yo,
it's been fine since.
Yeah, I'm like at this point, I'm like Destroyer said, I'm like, I actually, after like an hour, because I had another problem, and even this morning I turned it off for something else, and this was like, oh, we've had a problem, and I was like, yo, I'm like not even touching it at this point. I'm like, you just stay over there. I got it. It's there. Whatever.
And the shame of it is, this is an awesome system. It's a kick-ass system. I love using it. I love the games on it. I love everything about it. But to have some kind of a fear like that where I don't want to play it now because I feel like it's going to die because of some kind of a crash is crazy. But they'll work through it, and hopefully this is all firmware stuff. My biggest fear is that this is a hardware SSD issue.
Yeah.
And I pray to God it's not that, but let's just hope that, it's all firmware updates and those will be coming.
Yeah, and hopefully that is the case. Again, I'm hoping that it doesn't turn into a red ring of death situation for Sony. I think that there is a real reason why there's not an abundance of new PlayStation 5s available. I believe that Bloomberg report from earlier in the year before the launch, where they were reporting from an anonymous source. And again, you got to remember, it's coming from Bloomberg. This is not coming from John and Joe's video game trash heap. This is coming from a legitimate place where they reported that 1 out of every 2 SoCs were bad. That's a serious accusation, and if in fact is true, it could be why so many people are still, even to this day. And if you're hip to social media, you keep seeing people post these unbelievable scenes on their screen by by turning on their PlayStation 5. It's a real concern, and Sony has been very coy about answering it, and it's a shame. Again, I'm imagining that could be someone's biggest disappointment. But speaking of which, let's get to Jay the Retro Gamer. For you, what was your biggest disappointment regarding gaming in 2020?
My biggest disappointment was a game called Watch Dogs Legion.
Okay.
And it was a game. I'm a big fan, as you three guys know, of most Ubisoft games. And Watch Dogs was no different. I was pretty hyped and just excited after the delays of this game to finally get my hands on it. Ordered the top of the line version and was ready to go. And then I played like 2 hours of it, and I absolutely did not connect with it at all. And
now, let me ask you something, Retro. Is that because there's no main protagonist? Did you find yourself having a hard time, getting behind your character because technically you can just change to another character on the fly?
I think that a lot of people have said that was one of the things that they loved the most about it. The fact that they were able to kind of weave that mechanic into the fabric of the story, and for me, that was part of it. I think the gameplay to me wasn't as exciting as as certainly as exciting as the first one, and I wasn't that big a fan of the second one either. But that was certainly part of it. The fact that I never really got a chance to play with one character over, an extended period of time and get to really kind of know that character.
And you know what? I'm a little shocked, to be honest with you, because we know how big of a Ubisoft fan you really are. Like myself, it's one of my favorite developers for sure.
Yeah.
And to hear that you did not enjoy it 2 hours in, and there's nothing worse than spending $119.99 on the Ultimate Edition to find out that you did not like the game. Yeah.
Is there anything that you don't buy the Ultimate Edition of?
Not when it comes to Ubisoft games.
Yeah, right there, brother. Every one of them.
I'm actually asking BoomStick that. I'm actually asking BoomStick that.
Oh no, dude, I've already purchased the Far Cry 6 Ultimate Package. That's not a surprise. Yeah, listen, dude, this year Ubisoft got me for close to $400. I mean, if you think about it, Immortals, the Ultimate Edition, was $100, and each one of the Assassin's Creed Valhalla and Watch Dogs Legion were 120 plus tax. So you're talking about 300 and what? 350 something bucks. Yeah, dude. Listen. That is my favorite developer to this day. I mean, Capcom is always going to be in the heart, but when it comes to their Ultimate Editions, I want it all, even if it's just a horse armor, because you're going to get that along with the DLC that's going to be released. But I don't think I've ever not bought the Ultimate Edition of anything Ubisoft, going all the way back to like the 360 era.
I'm going to go on the record and say that is absolutely insane.
It is, yeah.
And I don't mean that in a good way.
I mean, listen, it is what it is. I'm a fan, and yes, I mean, listen, I don't have a lot of vices. Video games is one of them, and they're going to definitely get my money. It makes me even more happy to think that with the rumor that one of the very early rumors of 2021 was that the PC version of Ubisoft's service, it's like EA Access or EA Play, is coming to Xbox Ultimate Xbox Game Pass, which would be dope. I hope that in fact is the case. Let me see. Smitty Smith, our good friend, generous friend of the show, he drops an outstanding $5 super chat. In fact, the first one of the day, he says, "Hey, Boom, we had Joe and John Tracy, our reputable source of information." I love it. Smitty Smith, man, you're the best, brother. Thank you so much for the generosity, but more importantly, thank you for being here. Neo Menzo, let's go to you, brother. And literally, I mean that, brother. What was your biggest disappointment of 2020?
Windbound was such a piece of shite. My God, I picked up that game. I thought
it looked so good, though.
It looked really good. I thought it was going to be a Zelda-like experience, and it kind of had it. But I really don't understand why. I beat it because I bought it, and I was frustrated like half the time playing the game. It was just such trash. It really was trash. It started out so well. But it wound up being a short game, and I really wish I had never made that purchase. That really was. I had such high hopes for that game, and yeah, it was trash. I was really mad. I wanted to find the people that made it and hurt them. That's how mad I was.
Well, I'll tell you this. You actually saved me the money because I had reached out to you and I was like, "Hey, dude, did you see this game? Looks like Zelda Breath of the Wild." And you're like, "Dude, don't do it. It is nothing like it. It is survival-esque kind of a game." And I'm like, I would have hated it. I would definitely would have returned that for sure.
Yeah,
it definitely saved me money.
Even at the end of the game, there was never a point where you could be at the game and be okay. I get it. So listen, I love Division. I love survival. But even in there, you had a point where you were like, all right, I'm good now. I'm at a good place. There was never that point in the game. It was just I died in places. I was like, yeah. I was very angry with that game. That was a bad one.
Okay. I mean, listen, unfortunately, we're still in the age where even though a game looks good, sounds good, it sometimes tastes terrible. And that, in fact, is the case for you with that particular game. And listen, thankfully you don't have that experience often, but it sucks definitely when it happens for sure. Jay the Destroyer, for you, what was the biggest disappointment of 2020?
Well, it wraps around to what my biggest surprise was. So the most disappointing is Cyberpunk, and how long that was in development and what it turned out to be. And again, this has for me, thank God it had nothing to do with bugs or anything like that. I saw very, very few bugs here and there. And if I did, they were minimal. They weren't game breaking or anything like that. I just thought that when this game was on the way, I was telling Retro, I was saying, like, before the new systems came out, I was just looking at Cyberpunk as that it was going to be the shining beacon of, even though it was really last generation, it was going to lead us into the next generation. Somehow, I put a lot of weight on it, and I know it was probably, you know, unrealistic, but for what that game turned out to be on so many levels, that is my biggest, most disappointing game of the year.
And you know what? You're not alone in that camp. There are a lot of people that absolutely consider it their game of the generation. People, best game they've ever played, best worst game they've ever played, or some people like yourself absolutely loathe it.
No. Please keep in mind, I do not hate this game. It's more of a disappointment, like a really heavy disappointment. But I don't hate it. No, I don't hate it at all. There are very good things about it. The world is great. You know, obviously the graphics, if they worked correctly, were amazing. Absolutely amazing. If someone wasn't floating in the air, or, you know, guns weren't like walking around on their own, it was an amazing game in that sense. But no, I don't hate it at all. But it's just really disappointing.
Well, that's interesting, and I'm going to come at this particular question from a different perspective. For me, it wasn't a game. As a matter of fact, I'm bringing this back around and putting the spotlight on the PlayStation division. For me, one of the biggest disappointments was their lack of consistency and focus with their messaging. Something that we know and we have seen in previous years to be spot on perfect. Like one of the things that I look back at the last generation, that just, again, as a podcaster and a producer of his own content, you look back and you're always up against other podcasting content creators, because there's a lot going on YouTube, so you're always jockeying to be seen, right? That's what we do here. But when you talk about gaming and you talk about Sony's marketing and messaging, their marketing this last generation was nothing short of perfection in motion. Every time they wanted to get a leg up on Xbox, for whether it be something that happened that was disappointing, or they failed to deliver on something, they showed tenacity unlike anyone we've ever seen. And my disappointment with them is more specifically focused on Jim Dancing Shoes Ryan. Yeah. Jim, who is a fantastic businessman, and obviously what he did in Europe while he was the head of Sony there, there's no doubt that there's a reason why there were 5-to-1 sales, PS4s versus Xbox Ones in the UK. It's because he's a fantastic businessman, but he's also a bit of a liar. And when he went out there and he told the gamers of PlayStation that generations mattered, and that games that were releasing on the PlayStation 5 would only be on the PlayStation 5, he was using what I like to consider gaming terror tactics. And he unfortunately shot himself in the foot. Perfect example of that is Spider-Man Miles Morales. Now, that game was originally talked up on as being a PlayStation 5 exclusive. As a matter of fact, to add to the blame is Insomniac Games, one of my favorite developers. If I recall the statement correctly, they said that Spider-Man Miles Morales was built from the ground up with the PlayStation 5 in mind. And that is why it was exclusive. And both of them had to walk back that when it released on the PlayStation 4. And because he pissed off so many people because there was such a mismessaging with so-called quote-unquote generations. They only sold over 600,000 units, and that's pretty piss poor considering of how many they sold with Spider-Man 2018, which has surpassed 20 plus million. In fact, it's the biggest selling PlayStation title during that era for the PlayStation 4. So again, it's for me, knowing how good they have done with marketing and messaging over the course of 2013 to about 2019, it's what they did in 2020 that was very poor. And I think I don't know how it's going to hurt them in the future. I mean, I think they're unfortunately they're going to see some dips in sales. And again, going back to Spider-Man Miles Morales at 600,000 on both consoles is a perfect example of that mismessaging. But I do want to get into the one of the bigger topics of the day, and that is talking about the indie scene. Now the indie scene. We went into real good detail yesterday on Breakfast with Boom, and we were fortunate enough to have the indie gamer, who is someone that I not only respect tremendously, but is someone that if you're not following and paying attention to his YouTube channel, shame on you. You should immediately get over there and follow that and sub that dude, because he is someone that represents the indie scene in a way that no one, not even in the mainstream media, represent that portion of gaming. And I wanted to do this was a kind of a last minute addition. Now, when Jay the Retro Gamer writes up the topics, because as he's one that formats the show, this was one of the ones that I kind of threw in there because I think the indie scene. This is such a very different conversation than 5 years ago. Like, and again, we mentioned it yesterday. I think that Microsoft's Xbox or Summer of Arcade doesn't get enough credit for really pulling the curtain back on the indie scene. And it's when that happened, indies became a part of the conversation. And I thought that it would be a great addition for today. And I want to bring that up. So, for Jay the Retro Gamer, what is your top indie pick of 2020? Would be, I guess, your game of the year 2020 with potentially some honorable mentions.
No, I'm gonna have the one favorite indie game of the year, and much like it was my biggest surprise, Hades was my indie game. And I loved Bastion when it came out on the 360 and been following Supergiant ever since. So that's what kind of led me to give it a shot, even though I'm like I said, I'm usually not a fan of it, but I was so impressed with the way it combined great storytelling and how it handled the unique take on the progression mechanic that is a problem in a lot of roguelike games. Not to mention that the combat is fast and frantic. Look, I may not have a doctrine in gaming, but I do know that it's a game that proves that you don't need a team of hundreds to craft a AAA quality game.
That's a great point. And again, it's been getting so much hype even over the last couple of days that I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick it up because I have it downloaded and I almost feel like it should be on my list somewhere, but because I didn't play it, I could not add it just based on word of mouth and videos that I saw. So I'm definitely going to have to start playing that. And I'd probably like to start that today, even after the show, because I've heard so much about it. And one of the things that we know about you in the course of the couple of years we're doing this is that you do have an affinity for games like Ori and the Will of the Wisps, Ori and obviously the Blind Forest, two of your favorite games for sure. And it's pretty great to hear you giving such high praise to Hades, which again, that team is tiny. If even for indie, it's tiny. So to hear high praises like that gets me even more excited to play it, folks. We have. Yeah,
I will just say one last thing. I don't consider and maybe it is, but I've never considered either Ori games to be indie. So.
I agree with you. They certainly do not have the production value that you would expect from an indie developer, but I would still consider that studio, a Moon Studio, to be an indie studio. I'm hoping that they are one of the new additions to Xbox Game Studios in 2021. We'll see if that happens. But they're an interesting, they're a conundrum for sure, because they're not your average studio. The way that they design their games is no one is ever together. They're designing it across the world, which is pretty interesting on how they do that. Yeah, I mean, again, it's because of how monster in size those games are and how gorgeous they are to look. You would never suggest that that's an indie studio, but I definitely would put them in the category of an indie for sure. But Neo Mental, for you, we know you like playing the big AAA games for sure. We all do. But what stood out as your indie game of the year 2020?
For me, it was Call of the Sea. I mean, you know, I'm absolutely enamored with point and click games. You know, there hasn't been a lot really out that's been pretty good. I don't care about the graphics. You know, I don't care about all of that shenanigans. As long as the game is good and it's smooth, I'm here for it. I love a story. So, you know, I had, it came out and I knew nothing about it. I was like, holy crap. So I started playing it, and it actually made my top 10 list. So I loved it.
Well, that's pretty interesting. Again, that's a game that was in Game Pass. Pretty much came out of nowhere. We saw it though in I believe it might have been I'm not sure if it was the May show or the July show that they previewed it. But you know, it was an important game for Microsoft, for Xbox, because it was in their biggest shows of the year, and that's another game that unfortunately is on the pile of shame when you talk about our backlogs. And I've heard nothing but good things. Another game I would like to play, but unfortunately this year was rampant with open world games, and man, I love them and hate them at the same time, because they do take over your life for sure. But Jay the Destroyer, for you, do you have a game of the year for an indie? But more importantly, do you have any other titles you'd like to be honorably mentioned?
I'm going to make this nice and easy. I have one just like Retro, and it's the same game. It's Hades. I don't usually like those type of games. This one was, from the get-go, was awesome. And the art direction was absolutely stellar. I couldn't say enough good things about it. It's totally killer.
Yeah, I mean, listen, again, I've seen tons and tons of videos to get myself acclimated with the conversation, and it looks absolutely amazing. Like, I bought it just based on its initial talk about from the community. I bought it. I figured, well, you know, it's would you say, Retro? It's Giant Games that made that?
Supergiant Games.
Supergiant Games is notorious for bringing out good content. So, you know, I wound up catching it on sale, and you don't really get a lot of sales on Nintendo. So when it's on sale, you definitely got to jump on that. But for me, I'm actually going to bring up a couple of the honorable mentions first, and then give my game of the year for the indie scene. The Messenger is a game that I think a lot of people overlooked. If you are an old school Ninja Gaiden fan, this is definitely something that you should give a try. I believe it's still in Xbox Game Pass. It is absolutely incredible. Another game that was that really took the gaming scene by storm is Carry On. That is a game that is played from the monster's perspective, and it's definitely takes up the mantle of a Metrovania. If you have not played that game, it is definitely, you definitely get Alien-esque vibes, but it's a stellar game. It's funny. It's fun to watch in motion because of the carnage that is going on. Definitely something you should give a shot if you are a fan. And again, another Xbox Game Pass title, Streets of Rage 4. That game is absolutely astounding.
Streets of Rage 4 was amazing. Boom. That was unbelievable.
Yeah, and you know what? This was, folks, if you don't know the story behind this comes from a team that did it as a fan game and got permission from Sega to carry on the Streets of Rage name. And that's a big deal, folks. This was a passion project turned into an actual development house. And I am hoping that this is not the end of the side-scroller beat-em-ups. I hope that we see a return to greatness, because for me in the arcade days, and get just taking you guys back on a bit of a history with us. One of the things that we used to do is on Central Avenue. If you're familiar with the area, Funkoland was right across the street from Nathan's. Now, Nathan's, most people think hot dogs and French fries, right? Well, Nathan's doubled as the regular hot dog and hamburger place, but inside it had an arcade that housed 200 arcade cabinets. It was massive. So we used to do that almost every Friday night. And side-scrolling beat-em-ups is something that we played like crazy. Besides fighting games, the side-scroll beat-em-ups is something for me that holds a great deal of excitement and passion. I'm hoping there's a renaissance of it in 2021. And the last one I'll add to the list is, and it's in my top 10, Fall Guys Ultimate Knockout. My God, something so simple is just addictive fun. Any one of these games could have been game of the year for the indie scene for me, but the game that I am giving that to, and some people might say, well, you reviewed it, Boom, so maybe there's a bias, but no, it's because of the story, or should I say the epic tale that was told. I thought it was done so well. The artwork was just breathtaking. And that, for me, my indie game of the year 2020 is Raji, an Ancient Epic. That is a game that I loved from start to finish. I got every achievement. I didn't get credit for one of the achievements, so I don't have 1,000 out of 1,000, but I did complete everything in that game, and it was an absolute, like it said, ancient epic in every sense of the word. I absolutely loved that game. But before we move on to the next topic, and this is going to be the big one, folks. This is our game of the year, and we're going to break that down from 10 to 1, and we're each going to give our number 10, then number 9, and so on and so forth. Does anybody want to add any indie titles that you might have heard me talk about that you got a chance to play, or we can move on?
Do you guys consider Visage?
That's an indie studio. Absolutely, 100%. Yes.
Dude, that game was awesome. That game was awesome.
Again, in the pile of shame.
Graphics were on point, super scary. It was really interesting, like story, like where it goes. Killer.
And Jay, did you play? Didn't you tell me you enjoyed that? Was that Stories Untold? Was that?
Oh, that was a really small game, but that was really fun. That was an $8 game that came out 2-3 months ago. Stories Untold, I think it was called. Dude, I don't even remember the name that much anymore. That was a really interesting point and click. Neo, you like those point and click games? Did you check this one out?
I did not.
Oh my God, you got to check it out. It was really amazing for what it was. It's $8.
Huh. All right. Well, that's definitely gonna get moved to the top.
Yeah. No, definitely. Send them the message, because that sounds interesting. I like them from a distance. I don't like them to play. That's where we separated as kids. He always liked that, and I always like the Resident Evil stuff. So, real quick before we move on to one of the main topics of the show, Stephen Clark, good friend of the show, he drops an outstanding $5 super chat and says, my biggest disappointment of 2020 is Cyberpunk. Forget the bugs. It came across like a bad GTA played in first person, so I am so over the hype. Yeah, you do. You're not the only one for sure. A lot of people walked away and they put in for returns. If they bought it digitally, or even if they bought it physically, I don't know, there were a lot of returns. But what's insane is even with the returns, they sold over 13 million copies. That's pretty incredible. Again, more. There is. What was that?
They're gonna love my top 10.
Oh yeah. Well, listen, that's everyone's. That's the wonderful thing about these shows is that they're all opinions, and you are entitled to yours. But let's start with our top 10 of 2020, and we're going to start with number 10. Jay, the Retro Gamer, we'll go to you first. What is your number 10 pick for Game of the Year 2020?
I'm just going to keep this one short and sweet. Number 10, Hades.
Okay, so that's good.
Yeah, that's the final word I'll say about it. It made the top 10.
All right, and then certainly nothing wrong with that. Neo Mental, let's go to you. What is your number 10 pick?
Oddly enough, top 10 was Animal Crossing.
Holy cow! Okay, good.
Yeah, listen. Sometimes you just want to be, you have a crap day. You want some mindless, just relaxation or whatever. I mean, it's Nintendo. I've never played the game before, but I had a couple people like, yeah, you should play this, whatever. I'm like, all right. I mean, it's Animal Crossing, but I mean, it's like Tamagotchi, all that other, shenanigans. So it was a pretty good game. I played it for like a couple of months. I mean, I haven't touched it since, but I mean, I think it was a really good game. I think it was really good on the Switch, and it was like a ton of people playing it. It's weird because I start talking to people that I had no idea were playing this game. Like, oh my God, did you get this blue flower or this? I'm like, what the hell? It was shocking. It was shocking. So yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it. It was good for what it was. It's so well too. So I mean, yeah, it was a good game.
Well, yeah, Nintendo's. I mean, they're just something about Nintendo that just. I mean, I bought the game. Actually, I didn't buy the game. I had a fan of the show actually gift me the game, which is pretty incredible. I have not put a lot of time into it. I tried. I definitely tried. It's just not my bag, but I definitely have to learn it because my nephew Tyler is obsessed with it, and he's asking me about my island and about flowers and apples and things, and I have to learn a little bit about this so I can have the conversation with him because he loves it, and so do a lot of people. I tell you right now, that game came out at the perfect time. It literally, I don't think Nintendo meant it to come out when it did to take advantage of the pandemic. I think it came out because that was when it was scheduled to release, and it just so happened to be a pandemic, and that is why you couldn't find a Nintendo Switch outside, on regular channels where you'd seen them as high as $300, $400, $500, $600, $700. And that was one of the games that people were playing like lunatics because it really did give you an opportunity to kind of pull yourself out of this world and put yourself into the Animal Crossing world. And that's the magic of Nintendo for sure. But Jay the Destroyer, what is your number 10 pick?
Every year, I usually have like one smaller game that makes the list. So this is mine for this year, and it's a game called Pacer. Has anybody played it or heard of it? Probably not, right? Okay. No. Pacer is a love letter to Wipeout. There's lots of games that have come out in the last 25 years that dance the line of sort of like, homage, ripoff. This game is truly a love letter to Wipeout. They've admitted it that they're the biggest fans of Wipeout. It is amazing. It's by a small studio in England called R8 Games, and they completely hit it out of the park on this one. And if you love Wipeout XL, Wipeout Omega Collection, like all the stuff in that, just do yourself a favor. Pacer. It's I played it on the PS4, PS5. Downloading it on the PS5 with the back and pat. It even runs even better. You will love it. Love it.
It's funny. You told me about that game. I have it on my list to buy because you said you and I both love Wipeout. And that's a game that I'm definitely going to have to pick up. I didn't know there was a PlayStation 5 version, which is pretty cool.
There's not a PlayStation 5 version. Just the back compat of the PS4 version. It runs even better than the PS4 version, which already runs great in the first place.
Nice. That's a strong pick. For me, this one should have been this one, and it's funny because originally when it was released, I was like, "Oh yeah, this is my game of the year" because of my affection for the series. I'm not a big Final Fantasy dude, but Final Fantasy VII is a title that reigns true with me. I mean, you've heard me talk about this before, and Neo Mental brought it up, I think even last year on the show. I originally beat the Final Fantasy VII in Japanese using FAQs. And
you guys did that.
It's still crazy. I don't know if I could do that today. That's the funny thing. We did it. I had bought it when it first came out. I was a big importer back in the days, and that's one of the games I beat in Japanese, and I beat it again when it came out in English. And of course, one of my favorite supers as that's what I call it, is Knights of the Round. Still absolutely incredible. Super even back then. So for me, it's Final Fantasy VII Remake. It probably should have been higher in the list, but there was just so many games to be released that unfortunately it's just my number 10. But listen, it is what it is. Great if you haven't picked it up, and I know people are waiting for the Xbox version that should be out this April. I will probably finish that because I haven't finished it yet on the PlayStation 4. I probably will attempt to finish it this year and then replay it again on the Xbox when it releases. But let's get to number 9. Jay the Retro Gamer, what is your number 9 pick?
My number 9 pick is Need for Speed Hot Pursuit Remastered.
Holy cow. Okay.
Yeah.
Great one. That was a great one.
Yeah, while I absolutely, I enjoy the open world racing games of today, like Forza Horizon. But when it comes to, racing games, I much prefer the simplicity of arcade style racers of generations past. And this game is a shining example of that. Look, it's not much of a remaster for sure. But as the saying goes, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Okay? Maybe it's it's the cops versus racer battles. Maybe it's the gadgets you get to use. Maybe it's I just need one more chance to beat my friend's time on this track. That kept me coming back, but it did. And now I'm just hoping that at some point we can get a proper Ridge Racer or Burnout sequel. Are we all in agreement on that?
100%. Yes.
Yes. Right, so that's my number 9.
Well, you know what? Just adding to that number 9, talking about remasters, Most Wanted for me is still, and that was an Xbox 360 launch title. I wish they would remaster that.
That's the one I would. That's the one I would go for more than any other. I agree with you there.
Yeah, that one needs to be done. Again, we're seeing that EA is doing a lot of the remaster stuff, so maybe that's a one that will get a lot of call for remake from the from the community. That is something I would want to see done. I have it again. So many in my backlog. That's another one that I enjoyed when it came out originally. I have because it's in EA Play. So if you have Xbox Game Pass, it's there for you to download and give it a shot. Neo Mental, what is your number 9 pick?
Number 9 was Call of the Sea. I mean, like I said before, I love that genre. And this had a really, it had almost like an Indiana Jones vibe, and I think I started playing it. I just loved from the get-go. I mean, it was very vibrant colors. It's just a really good game, man. I mean, like you said, it was in Game Pass. So, I mean, you can't knock that. But it was definitely a really good adventure. I loved it. I want more like that.
Well, I mean, listen, those have always been your type of game. Game looks very gorgeous and very appealing to the eye. Definitely get the Sea of Thieves kind of a feel to it for sure. Again, a game I have to give a shot to. I don't know how long I'm going to play it, but it's certainly how long is it?
I mean, I didn't finish it, but you don't have the patience for that game. I tell you that right now.
Well, there you go, folks.
Right, where's it going? Come on.
Yeah, yep. That's me in a nutshell. That's why I love open world action games, because it's you're always doing something, and maybe it's an undiagnosed ADD situation. I don't know.
Listen, you're not going to be able to knock some out with a rocker off the bat. You can't kill someone as soon as you see them. You got to figure stuff out. You know what I'm saying? You got to actually use your brain.
Well, I have my brain. I do use it quite often. I mean, a perfect example is Immortals Phoenix Rising. Some of those puzzles were a bit of a head scratcher, but I did beat that game, and I did get 1,000 out of 1,000 achievements in that. But let's get to Jay the Destroyer. What is your number 9 pick?
My number 9. I didn't plan this, but I had obviously with Pacer 2 racers back to back. Number 9 is Dirt 5.
That's a good pick.
Specifically on the Series X with all its bells and whistles, it's incredible. I love it. It really takes me back. This version for some Dirt 5 for some reason hits me more arcade-like for whatever reason than the other Dirts, and that's my bread and butter. Old school arcade racers. Not that it's completely like that. It just feels The control feels a little more in that kind of space. But that's my number 9, Dirt 5.
Yeah, I mean, that's a strong pick. I actually quite enjoyed Dirt 5. I really did, for that exact reason. It was more arcadey. It did definitely have a Sega rally feel to it, which I know that you are a huge, huge fan of.
Yes, and it did have that feel. It did have a little more type simulation.
Yes.
Not, dirt, but mixed in with Sega Rally. Yep.
Yeah. You know what I loved about the game is the cars were so big on the screen. Like, they really took up so much room on your screen. You felt like you were sitting behind a cabinet in the arcade. Again, that's a lot of our love for some of these games and the way that they're produced is because of our love of the actual arcade scene where we spent a lot of time in our youth. For me, the number 9 pick, and this is going to be surprising for some people because you're wondering what the other 8 are. Doom Eternal is my number 9 pick. I did not finish it. I didn't finish it. I put a significant amount of time into the game. I got towards the end, and I don't remember what pulled me away from the game, but I do have to finish that this year. And of course, the DLC that released last year, The New Gods. But I loved everything about it. It took what we knew and loved about Doom 2016 and really turned it up to 100, if that was even possible. The soundtrack was amazing. The gameplay was as butter smooth as always. And even though it was very similar to Doom 2016, they found a way to make it even more interesting, and being able to traverse the ship that you're on and a lot of collectibles to get made this game a very, very strong follow-up to probably one of the best Doom games ever released. I'd say that this either moves to it shoulder to shoulder, potentially even edges out Doom 2016. But let's get back to Jay the Retro Gamer. What is your number 8 pick?
My number 8 pick is PGA 2K21. Look, I know it's a golf game in my top 10. So
you know what? I'm going to tell you that I'm not into golf games, but I did pick that up on the ultra cheap back in the day, and I mean back in the day, like Sega Genesis days. I could have. I was a big, what was it back then? It was what, Arnold Palmer.
The big one in the Genesis game was the PGA Tour game.
Whatever, the Arnold Palmer for Genesis, and what was after that. I used to love, and I gotta say, this PGA, what is it? It's 2K21, right?
Correct.
It is incredible, dude. You're completely on point about this.
I won't bore everyone to tears. It's golf. It's fun. It's well made. It relaxes me to play it. That's it.
Well, considering that the stress levels of everyone in 2020 were through the roof, and for good reason, that's good to know. I mean, I'm not a big
played it on Google Stadia as well. So I will echo Jay the Destroyer's comments on it. Just people really kind of need to give that a shot because just like most everyone else is jumping on the streaming bandwagon. If you're lucky enough to have a good internet connection at home, I mean, it's certainly a viable alternative.
Nice. Well, that's great to know that, again, Stadia, who would have thunk it, you guys are enjoying big games on the system that no one really talks about. In fact, Google doesn't even talk about it for that matter. But let's get to Neo Mental. What is your number 8 pick for 2020?
Number 8, Apple Arcade was Beyond the Steel Sky. This is from Revolution Software. They also made Broken Sword, which is another point and click franchise that I love. And this is actually a sequel to Beneath. Beneath.
Yeah, I think it was Beneath the Steel Sky.
Yeah, which I never played. I never even heard of it. I mean,
it's like a 90s game.
Yeah, it's the sequel is. I mean, it's like, which is weird because it's like a cyberpunk / BioShock. I was shocked, and with the Apple Arcade, you can I can hook my Elite to it, so it's a controller only game. And as you're playing it, well, I've been playing it on the TV, and it actually is cloud saved, so I can play it on my phone. And I was just really kind of blown away by this. The fact that this is on, like, I mean, when you look at the Apple TV, the thing is like a small, 4x2 brick, and it's not a streaming game. It's set off the chip, and you're playing it on your phone. You're playing it on your phone. So, the graphics, they're like in the BioShock vein, almost like a little Call of Duty-ish. But it was a full-on game, and I got halfway through it. I've been loving it. I actually went back and bought the other one for $2.99, and I'm gonna play that. And I mean, the story, the characters were really crazy. It's a really a good game. I was shocked. I was really shocked.
Well, I mean, that's good. Again, it's pretty amazing that where gaming comes from. Like, if think about this for a second. My pick is going to be a little shocking as well, but it's not on a standard home console. Any of your picks, right? Google Stadia for two of you, and now Apple Arcade. Go figure. And I think that as we move forward with the streaming wars really ramping up, and I think 2021 is going to be the where we see it really move the needle. We could have more of these conversations next year where we're pulling games in our top 10s from everywhere outside of the three main consoles. That's pretty damn interesting.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, absolutely. And for Jay the Destroyer, what is your number 8 pick for 2020?
Streets of Rage 4.
There you go.
There's really nothing more to say about it. I think it's the rebirth of that type of fight. The beat 'em ups. I mean, I don't think I could have asked for anything better. And honestly, before it came out, like, did you really expect it to be as good as it turned out to be?
No, I did not.
Not at all. Not at all. And it's like 100 times better than I ever expected it to be.
Yeah, and again, this was a love letter from a bunch of fans who got together, made themselves a developer, and got permission from Sega to finish this game. That when it comes to intellectual properties, IPs, a lot of these big companies are very protective of their IPs in a way where letters are sent out for immediately cease and desist, cease and desist on making a game or making a short for a film. We've seen LucasArts do that numerous times with Star Wars fan-made stuff, right? So to have this team of diehard Streets of Rage fan put this together, then go to Sega and get the blessing to finish it off, it's pretty epic, and it's impressive just to have a conversation. So
no, I wanted to also just tell a quick story that Jay the Destroyer and I managed to hook up online and play, have a game session with that. And can I tell you, there was one boss, and he knows this as well as I do, that after we beat it, I had never heard him more excited to beat a boss in my life. He was giddy like a schoolgirl.
Nothing wrong with that, dude. Again, it's the magic of gaming, and I love hearing stories like that. I mean, obviously, if there's a boss that just keeps kicking your ass and you got to bring a buddy in, the fact that you can do that is a big deal, and that's a great pick. For me, my number 8 pick, and this came out of completely nowhere. When you talk about modern day consoles, the pack-in game is a thing of the past. We saw that come to an end after like the Dreamcast / PlayStation / N64 days. Like pack-in games were the norm. If you look back to the Super NES, you had Super Mario World. If you look back to any of the other older systems, Genesis, Altered Beast was a pack-in game. That scenario is TurboGrafx 16. Oh my God. Keep Courage in Alpha World. Yes, that is right, dude.
The Jaguar had Cybermorph.
Yeah, Jaguar had Cybermorph. Listen, the Jaguar is a console that. Listen, I have a story. I think I might have told this last year. Aliens vs Predator, man. That is one of my favorite games of all time, and that was on the Jaguar. I never forget that. But yeah, packing games don't happen often, and when they do, there's a good chance that it's going to be a throwaway title just to say they packed in the game. Well, for me, my number 8 pick comes at my first platinum on the PlayStation 5, and that is Astrobot's Playroom. And I have to say, it is an incredible piece of software, and I applaud the team that put that up, because again, it could have been a simple 10-minute demo showing you what the controller can do, and it literally, because I'm a big platformer kind of a guy, I talk about this all the time. It's why I give Microsoft so much shit when it comes to the fact that they have not confirmed and really dug their heels in the sand for a Banjo-Kazooie revival, whether that be a remake, an HD remake. We've seen Sony do that with so many of their titles. I don't know what they're waiting for. Same thing with Conquer. It's a game that a lot of people would love to see a remake, and I just don't know why they don't reach out to the Playful team, or the team that brought us Yooka-Laylee. You know, get them involved and let them go crazy with these IPs. But Sony really surprised me with Astrobot's Playroom, because besides being an introduction to the DualSense 5, it was actually a love letter to PlayStation. Like, you can actually see all of the devices over the course of the PlayStation's history in one area, almost like a museum. And again, maybe that's not your bag. Maybe you could give a flying shit. That's okay. I hear you. But for me, it was so much fun. I found it to be worthy of me hunkering down and getting the platinum. I did that. It's my first platinum on the PlayStation 5, and I'm not sorry that I did it. So let's move on to number 7. Now, before we get to that, what we're going to do is, once we get past number 6, the last 5 of the list, we're gonna shoehorn in the honorable mentions from each of the panel members, and then we're going to get to our top 5 of 2020, going, of course, to our game of the year. But for number 7, Jay the Retro Gamer, what rings your number 7 bell?
My number 7 game. I promise we're going to get to the heavy hitters in a little bit, but there's one last smaller title that I wanted to kind of include here. And that was a game called Tetris Effect Connected.
Great, dude.
I know.
Fantastic original game, dude.
The original version of the game was an honorable entry for me last year, so I get it. I'm sort of double dipping on this one. But this version's even better this time around. Look, it's the best looking, best sounding, best playing version of Tetris ever. There were few experiences better that I had this year gaming than playing with the lights out, listening to the great soundtrack of this game with the headphones on and getting my Tetris fix on. It's a game I'm sure that I'll pick up every once in a while for years to come.
Everyone I've heard that has played that game has said that, and I haven't. I've been playing so much Cyberpunk, I just missed it. And I'm actually really upset, because every time I hear someone talking about it, they've just like, this was such an amazing pick. I think that game should have got a lot more shine than it did.
Anyone who has Game Pass,
it did nothing for me.
And well, you have to like the game.
It's Tetris.
Yeah, it's Tetris, but it's
done so well.
Look, I'll say this: so you honestly have no reason to not at least try it out.
I agree 100%. Yeah. Sure, it's Tetris, but it does things with the visuals and the music. That, again, it's just Tetris, but it's Tetris done in a way that's both pleasing visually and as you listen to the soundtrack is incredible. It really, really is. And like I said, it's in Xbox Game Pass. It is enhanced on your Series X and S. and it is stunning to look at. And again, it's one of those games that if you're having a tough day and you just want to throw away 20, 30, 40, 60 minutes, you can find solace in a game as simplistic as Tetris, done in a really, really new way. That's a strong pick. So let's get to Neo Mental. Neo Mental, what is your number 7 of 2020?
Number 7 is Gears Tactics. My other love would be the RTS. I played it on the PC. I got to update my rig, so I didn't get too far with there. And when it came on the X, I've been playing it there. Loved it. I thought it was a strong offering into that realm. I thought it was really good, and I definitely want to see more games in that realm. I thought it was really good.
That's a strong pick. Again, it's really, gaming is so personal. It's what you enjoy, where you find you can just sink hours upon hours in, and someone else sitting next to you might not find the same excitement. But that is what is the great thing about gaming. That is what's a great thing about having these shows where we kind of give picks that we might, because again, we don't cross-examine each other's lists. We're hearing this for the first time, just like you guys and gals are. So before we move on to the rest, folks, if you're here, we have over 100 people here. Please hit that like button. Certainly didn't expect that we were going to get 1,000 people in the chat, but again, if you are enjoying it, we would definitely like that you would share this on social media, get a couple more folks in here, and hopefully we can get more people to check this out, because again, this is a passion project of us, that we do every year, and we thought it would be really cool to share with the community at large. And let's continue, of course. Neo Mental, what is your number 7 pick for 2020?
You feeling all right over there, buddy?
Why? Did I get you already? Oh, yeah, I did. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm reading the chat and doing stuff. Okay, so I did get you. So I apologize for that. Jay the Retro, you got yours already.
It's up to me with the number 7.
Yes.
This is no surprise. It ends up on my list every year, and every year it ends up being my most played game of the year. MLB The Show 2020.
Dude, listen, you love baseball. Nothing wrong with that.
You can't get a baseball game better than this, and every year they keep topping themselves. There's nothing really to say about it. It's just great, and it's a total time waster. So there you go.
Well, I mean, again, it's baseball simulation. Thankfully, we know that that's coming to Xbox. I think it might be this year, which is pretty interesting. I want to see how that's going to sell. Baseball is a niche kind of experience in gaming, not so much in the actual world of sports, because baseball is a big deal. But for gaming, it is a bit of a niche thing, which is why it's pretty interesting that a company that makes games for PlayStation is going to be making games for the Xbox and the Nintendo Switch. I think it's this year. It might be this year, might be next year. I'm not sure, but that's again, it's your personal pick. It's a good one. For me, my number 7 pick, and I literally changed this on the fly because of how much I've been talking it up. It's not a particular game per se. It is a piece of DLC in the form of Hive Busters. That is something that is so good. It's so well done by the Coalition that it's almost criminal that we did not see more advertisement for this. It came literally out of nowhere. It was released, into Xbox Game Pass. And it is not only a showstopper for the Series X and really puts the console through its pacing, but it is probably one of the best pieces of Gears DLC in its history of being a franchise. It is absolutely astounding how good Hive Busters is. That is my number 7 pick. But let's move this back around to number 6, and we'll start again with Jay the Retro Gamer. For you, what is your number 6 pick for 2020?
Immortals Phoenix Rising.
Oh, okay.
This is, I'll admit this game really suffered from poor timing on my part. It came out after I'd sunk a ton of time into other open world games and just wasn't eager to jump into a new one. However, there was something about the game's vibrant take on Greek mythology that just won me over. It was lighthearted when other open world games were much darker. It had a colorful art style. The combat was simple but fun. You know, I just wasn't a huge fan of the frequent puzzles. They just detracted from the fun for me that I was having doing everything else. You know, all in all, it was a good game that just came out at a bad time for me. But I hope to finish it sometime this year.
Okay, nothing wrong with that. Again, a new Ubisoft IP for one that's going to show up in later on in the conversation. But you know, again, I'm actually surprised you didn't put more time into it, being that you're such a big Ubisoft fan, and considering that it is a new IP, I'm even more shocked.
Right, but it's an open world game that came out weeks after a massive open world game called Assassin's Creed Valhalla. You know, I scratch my head as to the reasons why they did it, but you know, it's not by no means a bad game.
Oh no, not at all. Yeah, again, I see your point. Again, that's one of my biggest complaints. I know, just real world problems, folks. Too many open world games to play.
Exactly, and not to mention also on the heels of Watch Dogs Legion. So I have no reason. I have no idea why they would release 3 open world games in the span of 2 months. They shot themselves in the foot on that one.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, and I definitely agree with that. Let's get to Neo Mental. What is your number 6 pick for 2020?
Legion. You know, that I was actually really upset with Ubisoft because there was a lot of problems with that whole launch. Which is probably the main reasons why I didn't actually get to play Immortal. You know, I started playing Watch Dogs on the regular X and or the 1X, whatever. And it was pretty good. I mean, it had issues. I liked the fact that you could literally take any person off the street and make them into your crew. And then once I found like the spy, it was over because I was sniping people left and right. There was some good points in the game. I was really enjoying it, but once the Series X came out, I had nothing but problems with the saves. I actually finished the game on the 1X only because there was so many problems with the new system. It wouldn't save my game, and the only way I could actually play this was to play it on the old system. So I wound up finishing it there. And there was just nothing but problems. And since the save issues were happening in Immortal as well, actually some people were experiencing with Valhalla. I actually, once I was done with Watch Dogs, I didn't play either of those games. And I'm actually mad because I didn't get to play any of them. So those 2 other games didn't even hit my list. You know, I mean, Watch Dogs had some issues, but I stuck through it. I beat it. I think it was good enough. You know, I mean, it's in that GTA vein. I think it had enough to make it good, you know, but I think I probably wouldn't be eager to play another Watch Dogs game at this point.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. The losing hours of a save because of a bug that released in the game that should have been at least that had that under control is why a lot of people stepped away from the game and never went back. There's been people that have posted online that they lost 8 hours of play. Could you imagine? I wouldn't play the game. Like I'm
throwing that game out the window if I lose 8 hours.
No, yeah. I lost like 2 days because the problem was the stupid I had left my system in sleep mode. So I didn't even realize. So you just kept playing, and once it disconnected, like there was no, you would see it on like the little UHF bars or whatever, but I didn't realize it wasn't connected to the network. I didn't know what the problem was. So I would go like for like it was like 3 days, and then by the time I had to restart the system because it crashed, and I was like, why am I so far back? And then I went into my side missions and stuff, and I was like, what the just happened? And then that's when I went online and I found out, and I was like, dude, I was tight. I was so tight. And then when I beat the game is when they patched it. I was like, yo, I'm done. That's why I didn't go into the other games, because I was like, I'm not gonna go through that again.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense, dude. I mean, nobody wants to put time into a game to have to redo everything. That's certainly annoying. Jay the Destroyer, what is your number 6 pick?
My number 6 is Doom Eternal. Do I think it's did I have as much fun with this one than I did with the 2016 one? No. I thought I had more fun with the 2016 one than this one, but this was still, obviously it's on my list and it's number 6. So this was an awesome game, graphics, music, the whole 9 yards. It's Doom. It's one of my favorite franchises ever. Number 6. There you go.
Well, not a bad pick. For me, my number 6 is a bit of a shocker. I thought this was going to be much higher in the list. And that's Assassin's Creed Valhalla.
Wow.
For me, as you know, I put over 40 days into Assassin's Creed Odyssey. I loved everything about that game. I soaked up every piece of DLC. I think I'm missing 1 or 2 achievements that I'm like literally minutes away from getting. I loved Odyssey. I thought I was going to love Valhalla just as much. I don't know why it did not resonate with me as much. I don't know if that's because of the raids. I don't know what the aesthetics of the visuals, because Odyssey was very, very gorgeous to look at, whereas Valhalla is very dirty. It's a very dirty looking game, and I'm not sure if that's maybe why it just didn't click with me. I would much rather play as the setting from Odyssey than I would a Viking. That's just for me personally, and I'm sure that has a lot to do with it. Great game, lots to do in that game. But I just did not find it good enough to crack the top 5. I enjoyed it, and I'm going to eventually play through it, but I'm not having as much fun with it as I did with. I think a lot of it has to do with having to build your settlements. That to me is I could take it or leave it. I do it, but I could care less. But let's before we move on to the next 5. I do want to get everyone's honorable mentions. You don't have to go into particulars for each for each game. You just give us them however you want. But we'll start with Jay, the Retro Gamer. What are your honorable mentions for 2020 that did not top your top 10?
I'll mention 3 of them real quick. One of them is Crash 4. It's about time. I mean, when I didn't play a ton of it, but when it was good, it was really, really good, and when it was bad, it was like a swift kick to the groin. It just frustrated me so much. But look, there's no denying that it is a very well made game, and they deserve all the praise that they've gotten for it. The next one is Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War. Again, a game that I enjoyed playing for the 2 or so hours that I played of it. But for whatever reason, I loved I thought the story and the single player on Modern Warfare was incredible. This one didn't grab me as much, and just was a victim of too many other games to play. And then the last one is Final Fantasy VII Remake. And that was just a game that I enjoyed playing, would like to get to more of it, but just wasn't good enough to make my top.
Okay. I mean, great picks. And again, all big AAA bombs that didn't make the top 10. That goes to show you that there were a lot of games to play in 2020 for sure. Neo Mental, what are your honorable mentions?
My honorable mentions is Final Fantasy Remake as well. I mean, I got maybe 10 hours into it. Loved the game. Graphics were beautiful. I just didn't pull me. There was just way too much going on at that time. So that gets an honorable mention. Paper Mario, Origami King. Another game I didn't get too far into, but from what I was playing was really good. I mean, I love the original Paper Mario. Nintendo's got a good sense of keeping those good lighthearted games. So I thought it was really good. I wish I would have played it more. If I did, it definitely would have hit my list higher. But that, and the one I actually didn't get a chance to play that you've been talking about a lot was G.I. Joe.
It was horrible.
It was. It is bad. It's a bad game. But if you are a fan of the
dude,
series,
you could be a fan. You could go pick it up right now in GameFly for $12.99.
Wow. Well, I already bought it.
Yeah, I got it on sale too.
Some of it looks like it was made in dreams.
Wow.
And I'm not kidding. Some of the later levels, I love G.I. Joe. Maybe not as listen, we all grew up with it, but I'm telling you, you play maybe an hour in, that game starts looking like it was made in like Roblox or something like that.
Wow.
Okay.
I did play a Hiss level that was pretty bad.
The first 1 or 2 levels, you're like, okay, I spent $13 on this. This is not the worst thing on earth. And the license is great. You get about an hour into it, and it's like, wow, what happened here?
Okay. Damn. Well,
Sorry, I had to stop you on that one. Okay.
Well, I mean, I was looking forward to playing it with Boom. And I picked it up when it was on sale. I think Christmas had that huge sale, so I got it. I think it was like $20. I can't remember. So I'm looking forward to it, and I think it was going to be a good game. But we'll see now.
Well, I mean, listen, it is what it is. I am, for me, I could look past some of the horribleness simply because you're playing as Snake Eyes or Duke or Lady J, and we haven't had a good G.I. Joe game in history. We don't have a good one now, but I'm willing to look past its flaws for sure. Anything else you'd like to add to the your honorable mentions, dude?
The Outer Worlds DLC, actually, and the Gears DLC, 2 games that I just didn't get to, and they both looked great. I think I'll probably get to Outer Worlds probably next month, but didn't get it.
Well, obviously, once you're done with Cyberpunk, it's gonna be a while before the DLC comes out. I think they're gonna be patching that for the next couple of months, so you'll at least be able to give that a break once you get the final secret ending for Cyberpunk. So, Jay the Destroyer, what are your honorable mentions before we hit on our top 5?
My honorable mentions are because there's just not enough time in the day, and when you have a full-time job and full-time kids and full-time girlfriend, these things happen. So it's not because I didn't want to play these; it just happened. So a couple of mine are Yakuza Like a Dragon. I bought it digitally on the PlayStation, and I gotta say, not having the next gen patch that the Series X has, and why it's coming in March and not on day one the way it was on the Series X, I think is deplorable. So I'm holding off on that. Then there's Call of Duty. I just didn't get to it. Final Fantasy VII, just didn't get to it. Maneater, I wish I put more time into it. It's a fun, goofy game that's Mafia, Crash, and Need for Speed Most Wanted. I just wish I had more time in the day to get to those games.
I didn't get to Need for Speed either. Yeah.
Well, I mean, all big games, and all worthy to be not. If you would have played them, I would imagine they'd be nominated in some form or fashion. For me, my 4 that I have is Dirt 5. I thought that game was fantastic. It surprised me how good it was. The Last of Us Part 2, believe it or not, is in there as a mention only because what I loved about that game was the stealth, the new RPG elements, the weapon creation system, and the graphics are just to die for. What I hated was the disjointed story. I think what they did with it was an abomination. I think that it was out of order in many aspects, and how they vilified Ellie just ruined it for me as a character.
So it didn't hit your top 10?
No, it's not in my top 10. It's honorable mention only.
Huh.
Yeah. And the other 2 are Ori and the Will of the Wisps. Did not play enough of that game. Maybe 5 or 6 hours. Never went back to it for no particular reason. I just think it's just one of those games that I didn't get a chance to run through. And the last one that could have made the top 10 because I got 1,000 out of 1,000 achievements in it and loved every second of it was Maneater. That game is free for PlayStation Plus this month on Sony's system, and it is a laugh riot. When your shark is jumping around on land, eating people, and they're screaming and running for cover, it is just, I mean, it's like drop your controller laughing.
Boom, have you seen the next gen patch of it?
No.
It looks great. It looks absolutely gorgeous. It's the same game, obviously. It just crisper, cleaner, brighter. It's beautiful. They really
I played it when it first when it first came out, and my problem with it was the controls. I don't know if you guys had the same experience.
Nope.
I just said it was
No,
We know
no.
how to play games.
Well, listen, let's move this move the conversation to our top 5, and we'll start with Jay the Retro Gamer. What is your number 5 pick for 2020?
My number 5 pick is Mafia Definitive Edition.
Strong pick. Yeah.
I adore the Mafia series, especially Mafia 3, despite its game design flaws. I mean, this game is not as good as that, but it is still a great way to either revisit or discover it for the first time. The game is short, and the gameplay definitely is not innovative, but it more than makes up for it in its writing and its character building, which made me genuinely want to see where the story takes them. I beat it in a weekend, and I enjoyed every minute of it. And it was
Gorgeous game. It was incredible things with the graphics. Yeah.
And it was well worth my time.
Nice. Strong pick. Let's go to Neo Mental. What is your number 5 pick?
Number 5 was Miles Morales. This was an incredible $60 5-hour DLC. I mean, yay. Not really. I mean, look, the game looks amazing. I mean, it's the graphics are phenomenal. But the fact that this was 60-hour DLC for a couple hours worth of content was a little frustrating. But again, you know,
Oh my God, I feel like we're working our way up to Miles Morales being lower ranked than Cyberpunk.
I'll just wait.
Oh my God, dude. Okay. All right.
All right. All right. Calm down, everyone.
All right. Yeah.
It's gonna be a riot.
All right. Well, let's get to Jay the Destroyer. What is your number 5 pick?
You know, after Retro was talking about Mafia, and I'm like, that was on my honorable mentions list. I did stop for a second and say to myself that we really have had the comedy of riches this year with games. It's just so many games and so many great games, because even like the honorable mentions, our honorable mentions could have easily been on our top 10. And it's been some year for gaming, whether it be DLC or full-on games. It's been pretty amazing when you really look on paper of everything that was released.
Yeah.
But that being said, my number 5 is Ghost of Tsushima. There's really nothing to be said about it. It's amazing. The story, the graphics, everything about it. I think it's the best stealth that I've ever seen in a game, or one of the best. Amazing, everything. I can't say enough about it. So there you go.
Well, yeah. I mean, again, my number 5 pick, like Neo Mental's, Spider-Man Miles Morales. I have not beaten the 5-hour DLC. I have maybe put a couple hours into it. I'm playing through it now. I am loving every minute of it. It is more Spider-Man, but there is something about the story from Miles that just makes me smile, especially with the way that Insomniac game really, they really take the time to put things into games that most people glance over. Perfect example of that is the dinner scene during Christmas. It's special in a way for me because my wife obviously is Hispanic. My heritage, my background is of course, Spanish from Spain and family from Puerto Rico. And yeah, even though when you see me, you see just, you know, a white dude, but I have lineage that goes that goes into Puerto Rican heritage, and seeing a lot of the things around the home gave me real chills to things that I saw growing up. When I explained them to my wife, she was like, wow, they really, like, even like the food on the table was reminiscent of what is served during the holidays that we do to this day. So it's just little things like that that made me really appreciate what they were doing besides telling a comic book story. So for me, it's Spider-Man Miles Morales. Jay the Retro Gamer, what is your number 4 pick?
All right, here we go. Number 4, Assassin's Creed Valhalla.
I'm actually shocked it's not higher.
I'll get into why. I really struggle with this game. I absolutely loved a lot about this game, but for me, it also answers the question: can you have too much Assassin's Creed? And
the answer is
yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I really liked Eivor. I loved the combat. I loved the story, the side quests, the raids, the hunts, the parkour. But no matter how much I accomplished, and I spent a ton of time on it, there were always hundreds of those activity icons that littered the map so badly that I very often couldn't discern what my current objective was. And those that have played it know what I'm talking about. It just felt daunting, and I gave up on it for now because it just demanded too much of my time, which I needed to get to other games. But I will return to it and see the story through. I loved it. It was just too much.
Yeah, no, I get it. I hear you. It makes perfect sense. You know, I don't like stopping the show, but I have to because Tony Gonzalez says something that I think is a little insulting, and you're getting fucking banned. He says, if you're white Puerto Rican, that means that you're from European descent of Spaniards, which I am, Madrid, Spain, specifically, asshole. And that European whites, you need to do your homework. Well, I say, fuck you, and you're banned. Because no, we're not going to have that kind of shenanigans. I know my heritage. I'm sorry I didn't take 20 minutes of the gaming podcast time to talk about it, and that somehow or another you were insulted. So now you can go fuck yourself and not pay attention to the show. So thanks for coming and enjoy the rest of your life. Sorry for that, folks, but that gets me really riled up. I don't like that. If you don't have nothing nice to say, I guess his parents, whether they were Hispanic or not, didn't teach him that if you don't have nothing nice to say, don't say it at all. And being that this is my show, I can run it any way I want. Sorry about that once again, but let's continue.
Language there, Captain America.
No. Listen, I don't like that. I just definitely don't like that. Who is this person to say that to me? They don't even know. In fact, I've never even seen him in the chat before. So maybe I insulted him by saying that I have Spanish heritage and I didn't break down every lineage from when they came over and from Madrid, Spain to now. Sorry about that, dude. But you don't have to listen. You can give me the thumbs down and fuck off.
Fuck that guy.
Yeah, but anyway, let's continue with the fun of the show. And we're going to go to Neo Mentor. What is your number 4 pick?
Number 4, XCOM Chimera Squad. I love the RTS stuff. Again, like I wish I played more of it. My rig is really old. I'm not a PC guy these days. I use it mainly to log into work. So that's its main purpose at this point. So I got some stuff I'm looking to update, and I'm hoping that this year I get a decent rig together. I'm not PC gaming, so I don't want to put a lot of money into it. I know I'm going to play like a handful of titles and that's it, especially now with the newer systems. There's no real reason for me to do it. But yeah, XCOM was a really good game. I love investing into the characters and stuff like that. So, I wish I had more time with it. It probably would have hit more than the next game on my list. But yeah, it was really good.
Yeah, and it's a strong pick. Again, that's what's great about these top 10s. Games that most people would potentially overlook find their way into it because of your tastes of gaming. And of course, like anything else, it's opinions, and it's certainly worthy of your number 4 pick. For Jay the Destroyer, what is number 4?
My number 4 is Last of Us 2. It was a last generation game, if you want to call it that looked completely next generation.
Yeah.
I loved everything about it. I'm just one of those games. That's pretty, and on the PS5 with the back compat, it looks even more stunning than it did on the PS4. So yeah. Anybody who hasn't played it yet, however you end up thinking about it, at least play it before you start dropping your opinions everywhere about it. That's all.
100%. Because so many people that have had problems with the game, I would talk to them like, "Oh, well, I didn't really play it," and I'm like, All right.
But that's what a lot of games. People talk shit about games, and they act like they know what they're talking about, yet they never have played it. So before you play it, before you start talking shit about it,
Right, you have to at least play it.
I'm good. That's
Yeah.
fine.
Look, I'll put it to this way. The Last of Us 2, considering as many delays as they had, the studio had a tremendous amount of dirty laundry get aired with, crunch. And obviously, there were a lot of, people within the studio that didn't even like the way the direction the game was going. It's still an experience that before you poo-poo it, you should at least try it. Now, like I said, I will gladly say that graphically it's gorgeous. It's a masterpiece. The stealth mechanics, absolutely fantastic. I loved the addition of the RPG-esque system where you can level up your weapons. I thought that was really, really well done. It's this disjointed story, especially the flashbacks that were kind of, to me anyway, felt tremendously out of order and pulled me out of the story, even though they were trying to tell what happened between The Last of Us 1 and 2. But I agree with you right there, Jay the Destroyer. Before people start talking crap about a game, they definitely should at least play it. And I think that a lot of people got in their feels because of a lot of the very touchy subjects that they were invoking in this game that a lot of people did not want to have that conversation. And that's fine. That's fine. But it's certainly worthy of your top 10. And for me, it was just an honorable mention just based on my terrible distaste for where the game went towards the end. For me, my number 4 pick is Watch Dogs Legions. I put a significant amount of time in before I just got sidetracked with just so many other games. I definitely have to get back to it, but I'm a big fan of the series. 1 was okay. 2 was incredible. I loved the characters. I got every achievement in that game. That game was incredible. This is even better. I did not think I was going to quite enjoy the no main protagonist, but I wound up getting used to it, and now I'm always searching for the next big thing with getting someone to join the crew. So I enjoyed that about the game. But let's get into now this is where we get into the nitty-gritty, folks. The top 3 for our games of 2020. Jay the Retro Gamer, what is your number 3?
Ghost of Tsushima.
Oh,
Wow.
Number 3. Yes, and above Assassin's Creed Valhalla, if you could believe that. What a breath of fresh air that game was. I mean, when I think about that game, the first thing that to me that comes to mind is just how elegantly the game was designed. It was a stark contrast to Assassin's Creed and the myriad of activities that I talked about. I mean, this game takes the less is more approach, but it makes the less much more meaningful, and the game is better for it. I mean, Sucker Punch did a phenomenal job in recreating their version of feudal Japan, and it not only is it gorgeous, it just made me stop so I can just kind of stare at it, to be honest. Then there's the combat, which was fun as it was challenging. The story is just as compelling and just as good, if not better, than any samurai movie that I've ever seen. I mean, for Sony, this game capped a phenomenal run of first-party titles, and they should be very proud of what they've accomplished.
Oh, there's no doubt, dude. I put it to this way, in my personal opinion, as someone that really reveres Ubisoft as one of the best developers / publishers in the gaming space. I think that they need to take notes from Sucker Punch on how to do an Assassin's Creed in feudal Japan, because this was as close to getting one as you could ask for. It was phenomenal. Great pick. Neo Mental, what is your number 3 pick?
My number 3 is Last of Us Part 2. For me, the only problem with this game was with the story. I mean, the mechanics, the graphics, and like Destroyer said, it looks really good on the PS5. I loved the game, and there was some points. I mean, the graphics were just top notch. They did a really good job with this game. But you know, the story just the story frustrated me so much. I've never played a game where they were literally forcing me to do the opposite of what I wanted to do, and it just kept taking me out of it. And it was just like, you know, when you look at online and what everyone was saying was like, I was really dumbstruck that everyone was like, Abby is such a great character. And I'm like, wait a minute. If you've been playing this game, you know that Abby and Ellie are technically the same character.
Pretty much.
Guys, wait. I need to stop you for a second. But think of it like this for a split second. What game that you've played this year is more, forget, I can't come up with a better term, but
divisive?
Unsafe. No. Unsafe. Like, you talk about games that are cookie cutter, talk about games that are safe, quote unquote safe, and play by all of the rules. What game took more left turns and took more, whatever you want to call it, ballsy, I don't know, chances, for better or worse, than Last of Us 2?
I mean, look, that's the reason why I got as high as it did. But again, my problem was, I don't know, like I felt like they did a lot of stuff just to get people talking. And I feel like a lot of the hype around The Last of Us was that so many people were talking about it. Because I'm just like, look, if you played the first one, Joel was the man. And everyone was fine with Joe getting killed. I'm like, yo, I ride for mine. So I'm like, the fact that this chick killed Joe, I was off the rip. She's got to go. That's 100%. And the fact that, like, he saved her and she still killed her, oh my God. Like, I can't tell you how many, there's literally every scene I had a problem with. I'm like, if I just killed somebody, there's not a chance in hell I'm leaving anyone. I'm not leaving this little girl and this other dude to come kill me after the fact, because I literally just traipsed states across some wilderness to kill this one guy, and I'm going to leave witnesses to come back after the fact? Like, it's stupid to me. But
then
whatever.
We saw it in two different, completely, we played the same game, but we saw it in completely two different viewpoints, because you saw it as that and I saw it as, holy shit, this game is keeping me on my fucking toes.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, but I mean, from a story standpoint,
I get what you're saying completely, dude. I get it.
It was just, I was so frustrated. And like, you know, like Ellie, like I said, they're the same character technically. I mean, each of the fathers gotten killed. I mean, Ellie's story was way more horrible than Abby's was, because all that her problem was her dad got killed. She goes to the gym to work out so she can kill this one guy. I mean, Ellie, her girlfriend gets killed. She gets friggin' bitten. The people that play it know there's a lot to it. And the fact that, like, you're playing halfway through the game and they're like, okay, now as Abby, you have to try and avoid Ellie. And I was like, I literally sat there for like 20 minutes letting Ellie kill me as Abby. I'm like, I want her to die. I
let it be known that this was one of the most uncomfortable games I have ever played.
Yeah.
But then you have to stop and think to yourself, how many games like that have you played? And I know the word uncomfortable doesn't sound like something you want to experience, but in this particular situation, it wrapped up in the amazing graphics and the amazing sound and the amazing, everything else. It's unlike anything you've played probably almost ever.
Yeah, you know what? For me, it just didn't feel organic. Like, listen, I don't care if, you're gay, whatever, one of my groomsmen is gay, best friend. I don't care about that stuff. You know what I'm saying? And the weird part was the transgender part. I didn't even understand. I beat the game and then found out that the character was transgender, because I didn't understand what was going on until after the fact. And I was like, oh crap, that's what was going on. Because I didn't understand it, I guess, when I was in it. But it did not feel like this was an organic story. It felt like they were like, okay, we're going to take these issues, we're going to just throw it in, and then this is the story. And nothing about this game felt natural. And I just felt like it was a lot of like friggin' lip service. We throw all this stuff in. People are talking about this game nonstop. All this controversy, stuff got leaked. It just, if all of those issues aside and you'd had this game, like they did a lot in this game that I really loved and would love to see again. But story-wise, that was the biggest problem. And, this game could have been game of the year, and it should not have been game of the year on anyone's list. Like, especially when there was other games that, like, there's no one that can tell me that this game was better than Ghost of Tsushima.
I agree 100%. Yep.
It's not. It's just not. So, I mean, this is, for me, it's just a lot of anger at this game, and a lot of, the fact the way this game sat, worldwide, and not for the issues that most people that don't like the game have with it. So,
Well, again, strong opinions from everybody on the chat, and that's what I love about this. I knew this was going to be a very divisive conversation. Jay the Destroyer, what is your number 3 pick?
My number 3 is Assassin's Creed Valhalla. I haven't really, honestly, been into an Assassin's Creed this much in a long time, and they've never really, ever really made my top 10, I don't think, in years. But for some reason, this one grabbed me, and playing it, on day one of the new systems was great. I don't know. I loved it. I get what Retro was saying with the map. I get that in a lot of games, man, where there's just too much crap going on the map. What am I doing? What's a main quest? What's a side quest? What's this? Sometimes it's overwhelming, and I totally get that, but I really love. I thought the graphics were amazing. I thought I really dug all the characters. I thought the acting was pretty good for the most part. Maybe not the greatest in the world, but it was good. So yeah, this is my number 3, Assassin's Creed Valhalla.
Strong pick. Real quick, before I get to my number 3, I got to thank DJ Birdos DOS in the chat. Drops not 1 but 2 $5 super chats. The first one, he says, "Thanks, Boom. I'm enjoying this episode." Well, thank you for being here, dude. And he drops another $5 super chat and says, "My biggest problem with The Last of Us 2 was the flashbacks. Mine as well. It just kills the pace for me, and that's why I can't bring myself to do a second playthrough." Dude, you were 100% right, because I normally play through these games 2 times to get the trophies, and I started it, and I was so annoyed that I could not get the and I'm close to like on 3 gold trophies, as a matter of fact, and I'm like, just whatever. But for me, and this really shouldn't come off as anybody's surprise, and I'm actually surprised no one even talked about this game, Resident Evil 3 Remake. My God, it was so well done. And what's crazy is it wasn't done by the same team that did Resident Evil 2 Remake, which came out in 2019. I know that we've seen some leaks from Capcom. We're going to be getting something Resident Evil for the next couple of years, I think 5 years, which is great for me because I'm a diehard Resident fan. We have the Netflix show. We have the series coming out, which I cannot wait for. I believe there's a new film coming out as well that's going to be in the vein of the games. For me, Resident Evil 3, I beat it, I believe, 4 times. Twice on the PS4, twice on the Xbox, and loved every second of it. But let's get back around to now. This is where we get into the weeds, so to speak. Jay the Retro Gamer, what is your number 2 pick?
The runner-up for Game of the Year for me was Spider-Man Miles Morales.
Strong pick, dude.
Look, the game may be a more refined version of the game that I voted for and lost as the number 1 game in 2018 to God of War. But I was 100% down to dive back in. And, if you look at the games on this list, this was a great year, not only for graphics and raw, console power, but it was a great year for storytelling. And this game was no different. Miles and that whole cast of characters were expertly written, acted just like the original, but the vibe with Miles just made it feel unique enough to stand on its own. Otherwise, I just loved swinging around the city just like I did before. And the combat, it's just so satisfying that no encounter was ever boring. They tried to spice it up with the Venom powers, and they worked to add like a new level, of immersion that, but it was already a great system. It was also the perfect length of a game for me, and I appreciated it. It did not try to overstay its welcome. I can't say enough good things about it.
Dude, can't argue with that, dude. Strong pick. Let's get to Neo Mental. What is your number 2 pick for 2020?
All right. Number 2 for me, and I've been on the fence, and I was gonna call it audible, but I'm gonna keep it the way it was. My number 2 is Ghost of Tsushima.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
Now
son.
I
Here
know
we
what your
go.
number 1 is. Oh my God.
I'll tell you, I should have bet money on it. Listen, Ghost of Tsushima is probably one of the most cleanest games I've played in a long time. I platinumed it. It was my first platinum on that system.
Oh wow.
I did everything there is to do in that game. I didn't actually play the DLC because I had already sold my PS4 for for credit towards the new systems, and I just got the PS5 a couple weeks ago, and so I'll probably get into that. But I loved everything about it. I think this game for me came out of nowhere. It was like I did not expect to be that much in love with a game where I've actually wanted, because that's like probably the first time I've ever tried to get everything in a game. And it just kept me there. It kept, the scenes, the storyline. It was a good, clean game. I had no problems with it. I really believe that Ghost of Tsushima should have won Game of the Year. But it is what it is. I mean, the players picked it, so that's good enough for me. And I really thought nothing was going to come out of it, nothing was going to come out to knock it out. And I fought for this one for I really had a lot of checks and balances. And at the end of the day, what wound up picking my number 1 was how much time and just sheer dedication I put into it. But Ghost was dope. It gave you that old school Channel 5 flick. Yeah, just everything about it was phenomenal. I think it was a really great game. Should have got more love than it did.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's again strong pick. Jay the Destroyer, what is your number 2 pick for 2020?
Well, the reason no one else mentioned RE3 up until now is because we're not done with our lists yet. So Resident Evil 3 is my number 2. And let me tell you something. You could say whatever you want about RE2 is better and blah, 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 blah. I don't care. From the minute 1 to the last second of this game, I had a smile on my face. I had a blast playing this. So anyone who thinks that Resident Evil 3 is the weak sauce can kiss my ass. This was, outside of one other game, this was one of the second game of the year that I had the most fun with outside of my first one. And Resident Evil 3 should never be looked at like some kind of a, like I said, some kind of a weak point in the Resident Evil series, because it's not. It is. I think it's I'm going to say I think it's a masterpiece.
Resident I'd agree right there with you. I don't
care what anybody says. It's my opinion, and that's that. So there you go. That's why no one spoke about RE3 yet.
Well, my only issue why it's not higher, why it's not my game of the year like Resident Evil 2 was, is because they did cut out some major parts.
I get that. I get it.
Like the clock tower instance with Nemesis that was cut out. The park where it was kind of like with the zoo, where they had those creatures that were like one and dones, but they were still there. That whole part with the subway was cut out. That when the train was above ground, they did cut out some things. That's why it's not higher. But I agree with you. I think it's a masterpiece, and it was well done. And the Nemesis was scary. Like every freaking time that guy came in, you were running for your life. That's a great pick for me. Now, this is, if we would have had this show 2 weeks ago, my pick would have been different. But I have to say that very similar to the situation that happened with us in 2018 with God of War being edged out by Assassin's Creed Odyssey has happened once again, folks. My game of the year 2020 up until 2 weeks ago was Ghost of Tsushima for many, many, many reasons. And unfortunately, due to what's ahead of it, it was boxed out at the last second for my number 2 pick. I platinumed this game. I think that this game is leaps and bounds. I'm not just talking about just a leap. I'm talking about leaping over a tall skyscraper better than The Last of Us 2 in every way possible. I think that this deserves to be number one. I literally feel guilty in my belly from not making this game of the year, because it by all rights should be. It's just a game that keeps on giving even after you beat the single player with the multiplayer. And I cannot wait to see what Sucker Punch does next. I don't know if it's going to be a sequel, but I will say this, like I said before, I think Ubisoft needs to seriously take a look at this game and mimic it in a way where Assassin's Creed Japan is similar to this, but they can do the things that we know and love about the Assassin's Creed series. And I think, like Jay the Retro Gamer said, this is a game that should be put on hiatus, the franchise, at least for 2 years, the same way Odyssey was. When Odyssey came out, that team had 2 years to do it, and I'd like to see them maybe even skip this year with releasing another Assassin's Creed and have us go to Japan. I think that's where we all wanted to go, and Sucker Punch did an amazing game. So, Jay the Retro Gamer, what is your game of 2020? Game of the year, what is it?
I don't think that at least any of the three of you are going to be terribly surprised at this one. The number one game of 2020, and I did debate it because of how early in the year it came out, and it came out right around the time that the pandemic was kind of getting ramped up. So I needed something to distract me. I needed something to feel good about. I needed something to kind of take my mind off of everything. And it couldn't have come at a better time. And that game is Ori and the Will of the Wisps. My expectations for this sequel were unrealistically high, and I couldn't imagine it being as good as the original. And look, you never forget your first. But I'm happy to say that this game improved on most every aspect of the original. The Pixar-like visuals, they were more layered, they're more gorgeous, especially on the Series X, where you can run them up to 120 hertz, I believe, if you have the right TV.
120 hertz.
And the combat was overhauled and feels fresh and super fun, especially now they have boss battles in the game. And then there's the fluidity, which Ori just kind of bounces around the screen so effortlessly due to, the fact that the controls are so intuitive, so responsive. And the story still manages to pull at the heartstrings the way the first one did. The score is just as good as it ever was. All of that added together just was an unbelievable sequel, and one that I am very happy to name as my personal game of 2020.
Nice. Strong pick for Neo Mental. Let's get into the controversy. What is your game of the year 2020?
Cyberpunk 2077. So
Jacob Destroy just committed seppuku.
Listen, I beat it 4 times. I got the main endings. The only ending I need now is the secret ending. This game has been a source of love and frustration over the last 4 weeks. And the fact that this game launched so broken had really frustrated me, that it was even an argument to put it between 1 and 2. But as I kept playing it, like when you first play this game, the sheer volume of what's going on is daunting. It's overwhelming. Like when I first got in there, when it came out, the game technically came out on Xbox on the 10th. So, PC launched at 7 o'clock the day before. I think Stadia launched as well.
Yeah.
If you set your Xbox to New Zealand, you were actually able to play at 7 with everyone else. So I did that, and I was playing the game, on Xbox before everybody. I saw a couple people on my friends list that did the same thing, and I spent a lot of time playing it. And unfortunately for me, the holidays at work are insane. And I'm actually in my office, so it was a lot of time that I didn't get a chance to play it the first couple of days as much as I wanted to. But once I finally got into it, and you start rolling, like the game is just it's for me. you talk about value. I'm playing the game for a month now. I'm probably going to be playing it for another month. I'll probably pick up on the PS5 so I can see what the differences are on there. And then I'll probably play that. Like, you know, I've already got like 300 hours in the game. So I'll probably get another 300 there.
That's crazy. Wow.
Yeah. You know, like I really started getting into the mechanics of the game. I tweaked my settings. Like the shooting for me was great. I had zero problems, especially with some of the weapons you pick and some of the attachments that you get. And what was one thing that stood out was what defined this game for me was, you know, obviously you get missions. So I was on a mission where I was supposed to kill this guy, right? Simple mission. You pick up this guy, you know, he wants to get revenge. This guy killed his wife, blah, blah, blah. So you go kill this person, right? And the first time I did it, I didn't realize that we were attacking cops. So I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Why are the cops going on me? So I had reloaded my save so I could see what was going on. And I didn't shoot first, and the guy that's with me gets killed. The assassination mission winds up turning into a completely different side mission if you don't kill this person. So it turned into this other mission where I'm with these characters for like another 3 steps. And it was mind-blowing to me that you could have completely missed this mission that wasn't on the board. It wasn't announced. There was no indication that this side mission was even there. And that happens a lot of times. Like you'll be on one main mission, and if you just talk and strike up a conversation in a certain way, it launches off to this other mission where this other person calls you and says, hey, you know, I need this help. This person is stalking me or whatever. And it was just so wild that you could play it and run through it and beat the game in probably like 20, 40 hours or whatever whatever it is. But if you really took the time to do stuff, like there was a lot more. And like even when I beat the game, my map there was still a bunch of missions that I could have did. And like I said, if there's these secret missions in the game, you know, that was really cool. You know, there was like different legendary gear that you can get where like there was like a story behind it. Like there's just so much to do in this game. It's almost Destiny-ish level of stuff that you could do. And I was just really impressed by that. And the fact that this game came out as broken as it did, when you look at the game, all right, the game got pushed back 4 different times. We know off the rip, Microsoft made them push that back for the new consoles. That's what I don't even have a doubt in my mind about that. But these guys were working from home and putting the amount of content that they did in this game and had to push it. They were basically programming for like 6 different consoles. You know what I'm saying? So that's a lot of code. And when you're like working remotely, that task is daunting, bro. Like I'm working remotely for an advertising firm, and there's days where I'm like, I'd rather just bite the bullet and drive to work so I can work there. Can you imagine trying to debug a game while working remotely? Like,
do you not think that this game was too bold in scope for what they accomplished? Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like the vision was just too big.
Yes, but I think that the vision needed to be there because I want to see more games like this. Like, think about Bungie. Bungie had $500 million to develop their game. You know what I'm saying? They had the time, they had the money. You need to hire somebody else? No problem. Let's go. They had all those resources. What CD Projekt Red did with this game for me, I mean, look, I get it. A lot of problems. The game came out bugged. I had issues where I literally could not get past a certain point because the game glitched out, and then I downloaded the update and it worked for me. I played it on the 1X. I mean, not 1X, the Series X. I didn't encounter half the problems that most people did, and that's a shame. But my experience with this game is phenomenal. I'm still playing it. Like literally this morning, I was playing the game, and I was like, man, I was almost like, I wished we weren't doing the show today because I just want to spend the rest of the day playing the game. You know what I'm saying? Like that's how and I've already beaten it 4 times. Like the game, I'm still going to be playing this game for like another couple of 100 hours.
Wow. Well, I mean, listen, to each is everyone's own. You know what? I love to hear that you get invested in a game and you're having experiences with the game that a lot of people did not have. And that is the magic of gaming. But Jay the Destroyer, what is your game of the year 2020?
Let me just preface one thing, like from what Neo was saying. Like we could go on I think Retro could tell you that there's a couple things in my life that I could talk passionately about, and Cyberpunk this year was one of them. I called him almost every day that I was playing it to either complain about something in it or praise something in it. And I'll just leave you with one thing. I don't think I've, like I said, maybe earlier in the show, I don't think I've ever played a game like this in my life where I did put in the hours and I beat it and I saw a bunch of the endings. And at the same time, I couldn't stop playing it. Yet as I was playing it, I couldn't tell you if I was enjoying myself or not. Because every aspect of this game, it was, what's the phrase where it's like master of none? What's the phrase?
Jack of all trades, master of none.
Jack of all trades. I think they were a jack of all trades in this game, and not one aspect was nailed or mastered. Maybe the world building, I guess, but that's how I felt. But there was something about it because I still couldn't stop playing it. And I thought about the whole time, should I put this as like on my top 10 list? And I was like, sitting at number 10, I just felt like it didn't deserve to be there with the other games on my list. But God bless you. You enjoyed it to a certain extent. I obviously enjoyed it too. So I'm a hypocrite if I say anything else. But my number one game of the year, it was a no-brainer. It's Miles Morales. There's really nothing to be said other than what Retro said. What he said it all. It was just, all I could say is when I was playing it for the first time, something like, went off in my brain where it just felt like, even though there's a PS4 version, I don't care about it. I played it on the PS5, and for some reason I'm playing it. In that first moment, I was like, yeah, this is what I bought a PS5 for. Whether you think I'm crazy or not, that's fine.
I agree with that. 100%.
But that's when I was playing it, a couple things happened in it, and I was like, that's right. This is what I paid the $500 for. Had a smile on my face. It was worth it. The game could have ended an hour. Forget about it being 6 hours. It could have been an hour. At that moment, I don't care. That was my favorite moment of the year and my favorite game of the year, and there you go. So that's it.
No, well, dude, there's nothing wrong with that. Let me just catch up on the super chat. We have Stephen Clark drops a very generous $5 super chat and says, my number one game of 2020 is Immortals Phoenix Rising. Still loving and looking forward to going on it again after the show. And yes, folks, my game of the year 2020 is exactly that. Immortals Phoenix Rising. It is a game that I put over 70 plus hours into, closer to 75, before getting every achievement in the game. It is a game that's writing was so fresh and so current that the game was being told from almost a Deadpool-esque kind of a scenario from the breaking the wall fourth person and a fourth person version of it, if you will. I just think that it was so unlike, but at the same time very similar to what we know and love, at least what I love about Ubisoft games. See, with me, I like a lot of things to do, which is why, still shocking to this day, The Witcher 3 just does not resonate with me. I don't know if it's the combat, I don't know if it's the inventory system that really put me off, but something about Immortals was so good that I could not stop playing it. And it borrows a tremendous amount of greatness from Zelda Breath of the Wild, which is one of my favorite games of the Switch generation. Yes, the one thing I loved that they did was there was no breakable weapons. You found the weapon, you enjoyed it, you used it. One of the unique things of this game, and I think it really just goes into Ubisoft wanting you to play your character and look the way you want it to look, was normally when you find weapons or armor, that armor set will have a bunch of stats that you really enjoy, but it looks ugly. And, you want your character to look appealing to your eye if you're going to spend 50, 60, 70 hours playing the game. That was one of the things that they added, where you can hold the armor, use the armor you wanted, but change its appearance with another armor that you liked. I think more games need to adapt that. I loved the ability of flying around all over the map, and I thought the puzzles were really, really challenging and thought-provoking. Again, pulling a lot from Zelda Breath of the Wild. I mean, listen, what can I say? It was my game of the year 2020. Once again, edging out a Sony first party game. I'm sorry, but not sorry, to be honest with you, because both my number 1 and number 2, I platinumed and got 1,000 out of 1,000 achievements, respectively, and enjoyed every second I played both Ghosts of Tsushima and Immortals Phoenix Rising. But I just think that Immortals had more there for me and literally just beat out Ghosts by a hair. The same way God of War in 2018 lost to Assassin's Creed Odyssey. But Jay the Retro Gamer, have you had a chance to tally up the actual group game of the year? And please explain to the folks listening that are still here how that comes to pass.
Yes, if they made it this far, I'm sure they're dying to know.
They'll be riots in the streets.
Yeah. The way the scoring works is that every game in our individual top 10s is assigned a number. The number 10 game gets a point, whereas the number 1 game gets 10 points. Very simple. You do the math. The game with the most points at the end is the group game of the year. And this year was a nail biter once again. We do not have a tie.
Thank God.
We do not have a tie, though the game that won and the game that is the runner-up are separated by a single point.
Wow.
So, and it is between Spider-Man Miles Morales and Ghost of Tsushima.
Okay.
And the 2020 group game of the year is Ghost of Tsushima.
Not sorry about that at all.
So yeah, I am. I would have liked to got vindicated for the group game of the year loss of Spider-Man from 2 years ago. I still think should have won, but I lost that battle. So it would have been nice to have it win this year. But I am very happy with the group pick. So.
Well, again, strong opinions from the entire group. The chat was fantastic, other than the one a-hole, which of course we will not name. But this is again, folks. This is done in conjunction of our love for each other that we have. We're all brothers. Again, it's something that we normally did privately, that we didn't think would garner an audience. I'm glad to say that we had so many people. We had over 100 people in the chat. And again, we weren't expecting big numbers because this is more of a passion project for us that we do each and every year. And as we close out the show, we're going to close out with our most anticipated games or things for 2021, and we'll start with Jay the Retro Gamer. What are you most anticipating for this year of gaming?
The biggest one on the list is Far Cry 6.
Nice, strong pick.
I mean, it's one of my favorite franchises of all time. Followed closely by Ratchet and Clank Into the Drift.
Nice.
I believe that's what it's called. And Ripped Apart. Correct. My apologies. And then just to kind of sneak one smaller game in that was announced during the VGAs last month, a game called Fist, which was it's called Forged in Shadow Torch. It's a combat-heavy 2D Metroidvania that looks super interesting. And if you're a fan of that genre, I highly recommend you check that out. I hope I have high hopes for it. That's going to be really good.
Well, again, all great picks. A lot to be excited about for sure. Neo Mental, what has you excited for 2021 other than life itself?
Yeah, maybe the end of friggin' lockdown.
Sunshine, that's my most anticipated.
You know what I'm saying? I think for me, Horizon, I love that series. I don't know what we're getting, but I'm looking forward to that. I think we're getting I'm not 100% sure. Are we getting Breath of the Wild this year?
Supposedly, Breath of the Wild 2 should be releasing, rumored to be releasing along with a new Switch in March.
Yeah, I'm not really a fan of these mid hardware releases, but whatever. But yeah, I mean, the new Zelda, and in Halo, yeah, I think that's it for right now. I haven't really been keeping an eye out of the future. You know, and because I know there's going to be a bunch of DLC for Cyberpunk. Actually, I believe we're supposed to get something this month, but I don't know if that's still going on. But yeah, so for right now, that's kind of where I'm at. I mean, I'm hoping to hit my backlog because there's like 10, 12 games I need to get to this year.
All right, dude, I'm right there with you, bro. My backlog is gross. But again, producing 3 live shows a week and trying to maintain the household and still be a gamer sometimes is challenging, but I definitely am up for the challenge. Jay the Destroyer, what is your most anticipated game or games for 2021?
Obviously, everything that everyone else named, like Ratchet and Clank and Halo. And just to add a couple in there, like, how about RE Village?
Yes, that's mine. One of mine. Yes, indeed.
And just a personal thing. I don't know how good it's going to be. I really pray to God that it's good, but I can't wait for that Evil Dead game.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely, dude.
Dead game. I don't care if it's just a 4-on-4 or whatever, just multiplayer, whatever. I'm going to love it. But yeah, and there's another game that I wanted to add in this, a game called Metal Hellslinger coming out. I don't know if anyone's ever seen it, but it's like
a shooter.
It's like a first-person shooter with like a rhythm game to it.
Oh, okay.
And it's got a lot of like, I'm a big fan of death metal, so it's got some death metalness to it. That looks really cool, but that's it.
All right, strong picks for me. Yeah, that Halo Infinite is one of the top of the list for me personally for a lot of reasons. I really want 343 Industries to be vindicated. I think that they have had a tough go at it. I think even with fans of the series like myself, I'm not saying I give them too much slack, but I do want to see them deliver the full package. With Halo Infinite, meaning we're going to get strong multiplayer, but we're going to get an incredible single player. What we used to get when Bungie held the torch with, of course, Halo 1, 2, and 3, ODST, and Reach, all fantastic games. I do want Infinite to be able to be put into that same conversation, and I think they're going to do it. Other than that, I have Resident Evil 8 or Resident Evil Village. I'm very, very excited to get back into the RE world that's telling a new story with werewolves and potentially Chris Redfield being an antagonist as opposed to the protagonist. That has me both worried and excited at the same time. We also have Back 4 Blood, which looks incredible. That team that brought us Left 4 Dead 1 and 2 is really, really passionate about bringing a proper sequel to those 2 games in a new form. I'm really interested to see what Nintendo does with a lot of their anniversaries that are coming up. Are we going to get remakes of some classic Zelda games? Are we finally going to get the Metroid Prime trilogy on the Switch? That's for me. That's about it. Those are the real main bangers.
You know what? I want to also the Mass Effect trilogy. I can't believe I forgot.
Strong. That's a great one, dude. Yeah, that would have been left off the list by accident. Yeah, that's another one. I cannot wait to run through Mass Effect. Hopefully, it is a proper HD revival. And what I hope, there's 2 things I hope for. One, that it's going to be great. That's more important because who doesn't want a great HD remaster of Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3? What I'm hoping is that this does well enough for EA to go into their HD bag and bring us the Dead Space trilogy done in the same format, because I would love to run through Dead Space once again on new consoles that can push the graphics into new levels that we've never seen. That's something else. But listen, folks, this has been a great 2.5 hours. Didn't expect the show to run this long, but we were a little sidetracked by my rant. I do want to apologize for going a little off the cuff. That's out of character for me, but I do not like that. If there's one thing that really, really gets my goat, it's someone coming into this chat and pulling that kind of shenanigans. That was unacceptable behavior. And unfortunately for him, he was thrashed in a way that I don't think he expected. And I'm not sorry about that. But I have to say a big thank you to the over 100 people that came out for this very small, passionate show that we put together for you guys and gals each and every year. Again, it's a passion project for us. We're glad that you've tuned in to check it out. If you enjoyed it, please hit the like button. If you didn't, obviously hit the thumbs down. And let's get to the outros, get everyone out of here. And of course, wait, before I get to the outros, I want to thank the super chats that have come in. Once again, the generosity is never expected, but always appreciated for sure. And we'll start with Jay, the Retro Gamer. Where could people reach out to you on social media, potentially to strike up a conversation?
At Jay, the Retro Gamer on Twitter.
Great to have you here. Great to get together with you. Unfortunately, we're not getting together for dinner tonight because of the pandemic. Hopefully, we will be out of this horrible way of living. And next year, we'll be actually getting together and meeting in person. That's going to be something I'm looking forward to. Neo Mental, where could people reach out to you on social media?
Neo Mental, you can yell at me on Twitter if you like about how I'm an idiot and Cyberpunk should not have been on my list. But, you know.
What is that again? What is that Twitter handle again?
Neo
I
Mental.
was just writing it down. I'm sorry. Okay.
You write it down, but, I do have a mouth, and I will tell you to go kiss my ass. So it's all good.
No, yeah. I mean, listen, everyone's entitled to their opinion, and you are not alone in the conversation of Cyberpunk being your game of the year. There are a lot of people that I know that put that in there because they enjoyed it so much. And Jay, the Destroyer, where could people reach out to you and strike up a conversation on Twitter?
I don't know. Jay the Destroyer on all the systems and all that kind of stuff. Peace out, everyone. Stay safe. There you go.
Now, easy enough, quick and easy, and that's the way we like it. Folks, I want to thank everybody once again for tuning in to the special edition Saturday episode of Double Barrel Gaming Presents. Obviously, we'll be back next week in our regular programming format, primetime gaming at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, the Xbox Factor podcast at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Thursday, and the new episode of Breakfast with Boom on Friday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We hope to see you there in the chat, and I'm already working on next week's content, and there's going to be a lot to discuss. So take care, everyone, and I'm going to close out the show with something that's important to me. Hopefully one day it'll be important to you, and that's something that my dad taught us, and he used to say, son, treat others how you want to be treated, and also it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, and I can guarantee you're going to have an awesome day. So take care, everyone, and we'll see you back here next week.